Informed and blessed.
I pray that is so. Just keep speaking, Pastor.
Able to run around and play when our grandson comes.
For a limited time.
And we thank God for such a lovely day. Every day above ground is a good day.
Are you live, Miss Jackson?
Yes, I am. Can you hear her now?
I can't thank you enough. It's 12.
And we're going to take advantage of this.
These crisis pregnancy centers look like doctor's offices. Typically what
Can
they
you hear
offer are
Pastor
pregnancy
Johnson?
tests, and they advertise ultrasounds. But the ultrasounds they offer
Keep speaking to Pastor
for
Johnson.
entertainment purposes only. In other words, this is not an actual medical diagnostic tool.
Can you bring down
And
Tom
the
Hartman
reason
so we
that
can
they're
hear her
doing this,
clearly?
They are not regulated by HIPAA, the Health Privacy Act.
The Tom Hartman radio program. Weekdays 11 a.m. to 10
Can you hear her
p.m.
now?
On WCPT 820.
Can you hear me now?
COVID-19 has forced nearly
1 second, there's a delay.
households to delay medical care
Hear me
for
now?
serious illnesses, screening for cancer and other.
Yes, okay, cool.
Okay, very good.
Hear,
Thank
yes.
you.
It's not too late to get back
All
on
right.
track with your
Thank
health
you
care.
very much.
The Illinois
That's
State
part of
Medical
it. I have to
Society
change
is
the
reminding
settings
the
to a
public
different
that there is
setting
no
every day.
substitute for a visit with a doctor. Medical
I don't know
offices
what
have
that's
stepped
about,
up their
but it is what it
precautions.
is.
They're safe and ready to give you the screenings, vaccines, and even tests
That's part of the job, I guess.
that can keep you
Yeah,
healthy.
it is.
It all starts with a call to your
Certainly
doctor.
is.
Information is power.
Stay informed to know what's going on.
Staying informed gives me the power of knowledge.
I wake up,
Need to know what happened.
I turn on the radio.
Because information is power.
WCPT 820, where facts matter.
I need you to add
This is
another
AP
minute.
News. I'm
please.
Rita Foley.
Okay.
Meridians
Thank
are
you so
running
much.
as dangerous Category 4 Hurricane Ian approaches. But first, they're boarding up their homes. Gil Gonzalez is in Tampa.
We got sandbags and all kinds of anti-flooding devices that we're going to set up here.
The big storm is approaching Florida's west coast with 140-mile-per-hour winds, now centered west-southwest of Naples. It's expected to roar ashore on Florida's southwest coast just hours from now. The AP's Donna Warder.
Robbie Berg of the National Hurricane Center says most of Florida will be impacted by Ian.
Really, the entire state is being affected in some way by the storm.
Florida residents have been boarding up their
It's sure
homes
to
in
get cold
preparation
here
of this afternoon's expected arrival of the storm. At least 2.5 million people were ordered to evacuate. Ian is expected to slam to the state's southwest coast. I'm Donna Warder.
But Florida Gulf Coast resident Kelly Johnson is going to ride out this dangerous storm.
This is what we do. This is part of living in paradise, is knowing that once in a while these storms come at you.
Airports in Tampa, St. Petersburg, and Key West closed. Disney World theme parks and SeaWorld in Orlando all closed ahead of the storm. Cuba is still without power this morning after Hurricane Ian knocked out its power grid. South Korea says North Korea has fired a ballistic missile toward its eastern waters. That's just a day before a visit by U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris. Russia's getting ready to formally annex areas of Ukraine where it has military control, after voters there reportedly endorsed the idea. The West calls that vote a sham. Searchers in Nepal have found the body of an American skier who fell off a mountain. Hillary Nelson was 49 years old. This is AP News. Now to some mysterious pipeline leaks.
A series of unusual leaks on two natural gas pipelines running from Russia under the Baltic Sea to Germany has triggered concerns about sabotage. Poland's Prime Minister has called the events an act of sabotage, while Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen says she could not rule it out after 3 leaks were detected over the past day on the Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines. Anders Puck-Nielsen, a researcher at the Royal Danish Defence College, says when such a number of leaks on 2 pipelines happen within 24 hours, it's strange. It is so strange that you get to wonder and ask yourself, could this be sabotage? Nielsen poses another question. Could there be an advantage for Russia in trying to destabilize the European energy market even further? I'm Charles Duladesma.
And I'm Rita Foley, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 Chicago traffic update.
Good morning. There's a huge mess on the inbound line at Roosevelt with a jackknife, dump truck, and diesel leak. All lanes are now blocked. Traffic is at a standstill from 47th. It takes an hour to get from 95th Street to downtown Chicago. Consider an alternate. DeSable Lakeshore Drive looks pretty good. For now, 11 minutes. Marquette Monroe. Because of that mess on the line, traffic's backing up on the inbound Bishop Ford. It's 18 minutes. 8094 is converged. North Indiana, roadway delays in each direction on 8094. You'll lose about 3 or 4 minutes. Northbound I-65 is heavy. 231 in Crown Point to 109th Avenue. The crash in center lane. That's traffic. I'm Jim Palamonte.
Remember when you get to work to hop over to WCPT820.com or the TuneIn Radio app and stream the Stephanie Miller Show weekdays 8 to 11 a.m. on Chicago's Progressive Talk, where facts matter.
For years, the special interests got whatever.
All right, we're starting in a minute.
And Americans paid the price. That all changes right now because
I lied 2 minutes.
The Inflation Reduction Act, and President Biden signed it into law. Here's what that means for you. First, Medicare can now finally negotiate lower prices for prescription drugs. Drugs like insulin will cost a fraction of what they do today. The days of drug companies price gouging seniors are over. Second, it builds on the Affordable Care Act to lower healthcare premiums for 13 million Americans. And third, this bill includes the largest investment ever to take on climate change. Clean energy production will ramp up. Dependence for fossil fuels will come way down, and new jobs will be created. The entire bill is paid for by making the biggest corporations and the ultra-wealthy pay their fair share, saving Americans money today, saving the planet for future generations tomorrow. Learn more at whitehouse.gov. Paid for by House Majority Forward.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
This is a WCPT 820 Heartland Signal News Minute.
Speaking at the 2022 Texas Tribune Festival last weekend, Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg took aim at Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for hurting people, namely the Venezuelan asylum seekers DeSantis had flown to Martha's Vineyard on taxpayer dollars
in order to get attention. Obviously, there are issues with the border and with migration, but these are the kinds of stunts you see from people who don't have a solution.
All right, we got about 30 seconds.
What have any of these people done to be part of the solution? It's one thing to call attention to a problem when you have a course of action. It's another to just call attention to a problem because the
Hey everybody, how you doing this morning?
is
We're gonna have a
actually
part
more
2 of this conversation. So many of you were so hyped up about it yesterday.
820 and Heartland Signal.
And you really know what people, what the core of the Democratic Party expects as deliverables. Hey, next time, honey, let me know that we're coming in, okay?
This is the
All right, you gotta
Santita
do
Jackson
that.
Show.
Thank you so much.
Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's a joy to be with you on Wednesday, September 28th, 2022. Shout out to my baby sister, Dr. Jacqueline Jackson II. It's her birthday. Oh, I love you, Jackie. Jackie Pooh, who's now Dr. Jackson. So there you go. Happy birthday, sweetie. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Hey, everybody. I'm Santita Jackson coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. We're going to have a part 2 of this conversation that we had yesterday. More and more and more and more and more of you tuned in. The longer we were on my YouTube channel. And so I said, well, you know what? Let me, since you want it, you got it. We're going to talk about what the Democrats can do to regain the Black vote, the Hispanic vote, because they have been losing those votes. I got a lot of feedback from some of you, from many of you yesterday, and even today. And it's very interesting. As I got the feedback, it was some people were chastising me for not saying vote blue no matter who. What this show does, and let me just give you a little bit of the mission here, is I want to help you I want to give you information so that you can be empowered. I want you to think for yourselves. I don't want to shape your thinking. I will give you my thoughts, no question. But I want you to think for yourself, because you can do that. And I promise to let this show be a platform for the unheard. What you heard yesterday was conversation that is going out in these streets, not in these suites. I have a street up conversation, not a suite down conversation. So let's be very clear on what I have opened the door for you to do. I want you to be able to talk about why you might be disenchanted with a party, with a publicly elected official, whatever. I want you to be able to do that here, as long as you do it with respect and with the proper facts. So that is what we were talking about yesterday. The question is, from Charles Blow in the New York Times, do Democrats have a black male voter problem? Well, do they have an Hispanic problem? They have been hemorrhaging Hispanic support. Got to talk about that too. And talking about it doesn't mean that you support the hemorrhage, but you need to find out what it is. Look, if you have cancer, you do not need cold medicine. So let's get real about what we're looking at here. Okay? So let us get real about what we're looking at so that we can not fix the blame, but fix the problem. So call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Indeed, a couple of you who are regular listeners will be sitting at the table today. Miss Savannah will be returning along with Linear Bob. They'll be in for a segment apiece, and I'm very, very excited. They'll be joining this team as we, CK said, legal Q&A with CK. Let's talk about this today. All right, everybody, let's get to it in Chicago. Feels like fall, everybody. 59 degrees will be the high. It rained last night. It's going to be showering throughout the day. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 62 degrees, mostly sunny. In Major League Baseball, well, the White Sox fell to the Twins. The Twins shut the White Sox out 4-0, and the Cubs 2-1 over Philadelphia. And there was silence in the NFL last night. More than 2.5 million people have been urged to evacuate as Hurricane Ian barrels toward Florida, threatening catastrophic flooding and life-threatening storm surge. In the past few hours, it has strengthened to a Category 4 hurricane with sustained winds of 140 miles per hour, according to the National Hurricane Center, everybody. Projections had Ian on track to hit Tampa Bay, which would have been the first direct hit in 100 years, but the hurricane's path has since shifted south, with residents in Orlando and Daytona Beach now bracing for impact. Praying for our brothers and sisters in Florida. The House Select Committee investigating the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol postponed its hearing today in light of what's happening in Florida, Hurricane Ian. The panel had originally set the hearing to reveal new information it has uncovered since its last hearing in July. Separately, Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell announced yesterday he would support legislation that would make it harder to overturn a certified presidential election in response to the January 6th attack. Leaders of several Western countries say leaks in 2 Russian gas pipelines are likely the result of sabotage. Swedish authorities sounded the alarm on Tuesday about leaks in their Nord Stream gas pipelines, which run under the Baltic Sea near Sweden and Denmark, and have been major flashpoints in the energy war between Europe and Russia. It's interesting, everybody. Did you know that there are several Chicago area high schools that rank top 10 in the country for 2023 for public schools? Guess what? My alma mater's in the mix. Yes, Whitney Young is 10. I love it. I love it. That's right. Peyton College Prep is number 2. Northside Prep is number 5. Illinois Mathematics and Science Academy is 6. And Whitney Young rounds out the top 10. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it, you all. I love it. I love it. I love it. And watch out for the meat, everybody. 60 meat products, more than 60 meat products that are sold in our state have been recalled over listeria concerns. Please check your meat, everybody. Please be very careful. The products subject to recall bear the establishment number, write this down, EST 20917. EST 20917. And those are some of the headlines, everybody. Call me at 773 763-9278, 773-763-9278. And let's talk about politics today. What do the Democrats need to do to please their core constituency? They can't do anything without black votes, but black voters are very, very quietly telling them, you're not doing what I need you to do, so I'm either not showing up for the polls or I'm showing up for Republican. Pastor Vicki Johnson, St. Thomas Lutheran Church at 80th and Jeffrey here in Chicago, every Sunday an hour of power from 11:45 Central Standard Time to 12:45 Eastern Standard Time. What is the good news today?
Well, good morning, Santita, and good morning to all of your morning stars and friends. There is good news. There was a legendary preacher who served as the founder and pastor of the First Church of Deliverance, located in the Bronzeville community on the south side of Chicago. His name is the Reverend Clarence H. Cobbs. The church was established in 1929, just 5 months before the Great Depression. Not only did his church and congregation survive the Great Depression, but it thrived, and they were later able to construct a church of distinction that is now a city landmark. Preacher Cobbs, as he was affectionately called, successfully led his congregation through many dark days of discrimination and oppression, preaching and praying, and of course, singing, Jesus is the light of the world, and How I Got Over, as songs of hope and joy. But there was one thing that Preacher Cobbs would say every Sunday until he passed away in 1979 that is yet being spoken by each successor since. He said, "It matters not what you think of me, but it does matter what I think of you." Yes. Hearing that on his weekly 11 p.m. Sunday radio broadcast as a young child, I thought, what a conceited thing to say. How could you possibly be a leader, a Christian leader of thousands, and not care what people think of you, only giving thought to what you think of people? Then one day, I came into the awareness of the truth of his statement. You see, what you think of me can only affect me if I allow it. Let me say that again. What you think of me can only affect me if I allow it. But what I think of you can either tear me down or build me up. Allowing hate and jealousy to guide your thoughts will tear you down. But if you let love abide, you will be built up. Today is a good day to take Preacher Cobb's mantra and apply it to your life to do some building up of yourself. If you will do this, and I believe that you will, then to me, that's good news.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you for bringing Father Cobbs back to all of us. He will always live as long as we mention his name. People love him so much today because he served the people. And, you know, throughout the Depression, I suspect that he also really prospered. He had a church that was open to everybody. Whatever your background, whether you were gay or straight, And in the Black community, I think in the world community, that was a big deal 100 years ago. But he opened the church to everybody, and everybody was there, and you got the best music and the best everything. But he also kept the doors of the church open throughout the week. Anyone who needed a meal could go there and get something to eat throughout the Depression.
That's right.
People never, ever forgot that. And I remember when Father Cobbs passed, that was one of these big funerals that the preachers have.
Yeah.
Everybody came in from all over the country just to pay homage to this great man. And we love Father Clarence Cobb. That's right. It does matter what I think of you. That's the game changer. How can we worship with you, Pastor Johnson?
Well, come on over to St. Thomas Lutheran Church at 8000 South Jeffrey Boulevard, Chicago, Illinois at 11:45 on Sundays for our 1 hour of power. Or you can join us on Facebook at St. Thomas Lutheran Church, Chicago. We'd love to have you.
We love you, Pastor Vicki Johnson. Lover. Maybe she'll sing for you when she's there. Oh, love it. Love it. Everybody, Pastor Vicki Johnson at 80th and Jeffrey here in Chicago, 11:45 on Sundays. Please be there and be blessed. Love you so much, Pastor Johnson. Let's bring up Dr. Shanina Knighton. Oh, absolutely. Let's bring up Dr. Shanina Knighton, the Executive Director of the Association for Professionals in Infection Control and Epidemiology. Indeed, she's an infection preventionist, a registered nurse, and we've come to depend upon her medical advice, her health advice. She is a pillar for us, and we just thank God for you. Let me ask you this. I was reading the newspapers earlier today, and as if there is such a thing early today, late last night, whatever it was, there is a lot of worry about this season. They said, they're expecting a huge surge in COVID cases because, it's also flu season, and people have not. There's a disturbingly low, they said, vaccination and or booster rate in America. What can we do to protect ourselves in this season? I mean, this is something that you talked to us about last year, but it seems that health officials are especially concerned this year.
Understandably so. I think one of the things that has been most interesting in this season versus last season is, and I just don't think that we pay enough attention to how things are changing. And when I say things are changing, what guidelines have been rolled back, what things have been done, without this illness not necessarily being over, without it still, like right now, even still as scientists, is still trying to understand, like, what are the short-term and long-term consequences of COVID, as well as even understand, which vaccines, when we heard the message very early on in a pandemic that the vaccines were going to eradicate COVID and we would be back to normal lives, no one expected for it to take this trajectory, or at least I was going to say the people that receive the information. So I'm not sure, but as I mentioned all the time, we're experiencing science on a live stage. So now as we're facing, fall of 2022, and we have vaccinations that are there that are meant to decrease someone that may be symptomatic, when you have, rare conditions such as multi-system inflammatory disease, you have the asymptomatic that still may have some sort of consequence related to COVID. You have flu, you have RSV, which is respiratory syncytial virus. You have enterovirus, which is another gut virus that shows up, stomach virus, or stomach flu, as people call it. So there's just so many things that are just floating around in this time. And I think we took for granted that when people wore masks and we had environmental cleaning in public places, that was mandated, right? Or it required. So some of our states required that grocery stores collate their carts, and that the kiosks were wiped down, and that the counters were wiped down, and a lot of things were being done. And so now, as a result of that, we're not seeing those same things materialize, and as a result, it's collateral damage, right? And so if we're going inside this season, as we're dwelling indoors, and those cleaning measures as well as preventative measures are no longer required to enter into certain spaces, it means that we all are going to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And so I always tell people, become the CEO of your own infection prevention and control. Make sure that you're implementing it into your daily practice, because the problem is it's not necessarily an issue when you don't get sick. It's an issue when you do, and when you realize, oh my gosh, I know that I could have done better practices at this particular time. And unfortunately, none of us can afford to be ill. And this is not to scare people. It's to be a warrior, not a worrier. But it's also to think about it. The last time we was in the pandemic at the beginning, we had food factories that were being shut down because there weren't a lot enough people to work. And so with us anticipating a bad flu season, we have to look at the workflow of America and understand how is that going to be impacted as we have this cocktail of all of these illnesses that are going on. And then do we have an infrastructure that's set up to rescue us? And so I always say all the time, a lot of things start with self. And when it starts with self, that means protecting yourself. That does make sure, meaning that you have, hand sanitizers, soaps available when you go out, and not assuming that others are going to have them. We know that in a lot of schools, a lot of buildings that have their own infrastructure, their heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems may not be up to date, which means that you may have poor quality air. So at this point, I'm just recommending to people to do what it is that you can when you did not know what COVID was, when you were fearful of COVID, when some of us may have had loved ones that died from COVID, or as a consequence of COVID, rather, that because it was complicated with another condition. I'm mentioning that just to say that same urgency, that same tentativeness and attention that you are giving to your infection prevention and control practices, do so. Because I've heard from plenty of people, oh my gosh, I waited 2 years to catch COVID. And when they tell me that they didn't call COVID, they actually can remember where they caught it from, because they think about when they let their guard down. So the goal is to be vigilant and to not let your guard down, because the thing is you never know who you may be amongst that may be sick. And for you, you might think it's COVID and you may not be concerned about COVID. But enterovirus and flu and RSV are real things. And I'm sure no one can afford to be ill or be down.
No one can afford it. I mean, because now with no COVID funding, if you want to get tested, you have to pay for it in all likelihood. And we still don't have the access to the treatments that we need. I mean, it's just, we see the inequities in the system. And so that's something we have to, and COVID is not the only thing that's out here. I mean, it's not, Dr. Knighton. I mean, there's a lot out here that can make you sick, that can take you down in terms of your health. Just practically speaking, you said we need to be the CEOs of our own health. What if, just very quickly, I've got about 90 seconds. For those of us who do not have primary care physicians, what do you recommend that we do? If we are getting our health through the public system, through the public healthcare system, if we don't have private health insurance, do you know what our options can be?
There's preventative things to do that all of our healthcare systems are going to make us aware. And that's making sure that we're drinking plenty of fluids, that we are eating, a nutrient-dense diet. And just as Dr. Deb defines it, which is accurate, that's a diet where when you go to the store, there is no expiration date on the fruits and vegetables and different items that you're going to need. And so it's making sure that you have those in your system because they provide antioxidants. Also understand that we're getting ready to go into Halloween right now. It's getting ready to get cold. It's also getting ready to be Thanksgiving, where it's getting ready to be pastry. Yes, sugar does lower your immune system. Your immune system is your body's ability to fight against any kind of illness. So understand that if you have 75 grams of sugar, which would be a cup of coffee and a pastry in your body, that has the potential to lower your immune system. And if your immune system is lowered, if you encounter an illness or if you're having a common cold, that's potentially the sugar can push you over the top. And it's not just that one factor, but many people, like let's say if, for example, you stressed out and you're like, I'm getting ready to go get that cheesecake or go get this, that may not necessarily be the best combination. You may need to go for a walk to walk off the stress instead. So it's really using those lifestyle habits to our advantage because they do work. And I do trust, Santita, that a lot of us, and when I say a lot of us, I'm talking about people in the public, have had periods of time where they were less sick during the pandemic. Some of us may have been more sick, but we have understood our bodies and understand what it is that we need to do. And so if you do not have a primary care provider, it's understanding where are the wellness clinics within your communities, where are the free resources within your communities. They may exist. Unfortunately, they may be embedded. And I know that right now, just even me mentioning that, it's sad because it comes from a place of privilege because people may not necessarily have the digital resources to be able to access where these things are. And so with that being said, a lot of great resources come from churches. So if you have a church within your community, that also can serve as a network to be able to provide information and maybe even food or resources that you may not have access to. And so this is the season of what I call resourcefulness.
Sure.
Resourcefulness is just how well are you able to be resourceful when things may not necessarily come to you or you have access to them because of the inequity issues that exist within our country. And right now, as much as we may want to complain and as much as we may want to be upset, we have to do things the best way that we can. And as I mentioned, still be the CEO of our own health the best way that we know how.
Absolutely. And you can do it, everybody. Hey, Dr. Nina. Hey, Dr. Nina is her handle. Follow her so that you can get some great health advice that you do not have to pay for. Let's talk about politics on the Santita Jackson Show. Back in a minute.
Tune into the Tom Hartman radio program, your home for news, opinion, and insight, right here on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. When Pearl Harbor was attacked, men of all races across the country
I'm going to change the number for Linear
the
Bob.
United States Army being heavily segregated. Black and Hispanic were mostly assigned to combat support roles. But this did not stop Lieutenant Colonel Paul.
Okay, but you can get everybody else up,
pushed his
please.
soldiers.
Okay. Dr. Knight, we're going to let you go because we're going to need the line.
1942.
Okay, so right ahead.
All right, sweetie, but if you want to listen.
676 enlisted men. The unit donned the nickname the Black Panthers, wearing patches on their uniforms of the
What you say,
Panther
hon?
and the slogan, "Come out fighting." And in 1944, the
Okay, sweetie,
761st
but let me
was
know what
assigned
you
to
think. I
General
always like to
George
get
Patton's Third Army in France. General Patton gave a colorful speech to his crew, and the Black Panthers became the first African-American tank squad in World War II. And by the end of the war, the Black Panthers had fought further east than every other United States unit, receiving 391 decorations for their heroism.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago traffic and weather update.
Okay, I just sent that to you, and he, of course.
It's a huge mess on the inbound ride at.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
He's not now,
and
obviously.
diesel leak.
Yeah. It's at the end of the show.
Okay, so I'll just get up everybody else. Thank you so much.
Will do. All right.
Get from 95th Street to downtown Chicago. Outbound, it's 12 minutes. Some could use DuSable Lakeshore Drive.
Hey, everybody, call us at 773-763-9278. Let me do that.
Lose about 5 minutes there. Inbound Kennedy, delays start right around O'Hare. It's 31 minutes from the airport to downtown. The Eisenhower now 43 minutes in from 390. Stevenson 39, the Veterans Memorial. Northbound I-65 is bottled up. 231 to 109th Avenue. Crash in the 2 left lanes. I'm Jim Calamonte.
Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
These spotty rain showers earlier
Call
today.
in.
Otherwise, skies will become mostly sunny with a high around 60
Do
degrees.
the Democrats
Winds
have
out
a
of the northeast
problem
around 5
with
to
black
10 miles
voters,
per
with
hour,
Hispanic
gusting as
voters? The
high as
numbers are
59.
showing that they've got
For
some
tonight,
issues.
partly cloudy
And
skies
I
around near
tell you,
44.
that
Thursday,
sometimes
sunshine
you
high of
have
64 degrees. Then on Friday,
people let
plenty
you
of
know
blue
in ways
skies
great
and
and
sun
small
with
that
a
they're
high around
displeased with you.
66.
Black people are
Saturday,
no
sunshine
different.
high of 70.
They
From
will.
our Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist
They don't
Jennifer
have to say that they're going to boycott you.
Currently,
They just
it's
the
50.
enthusiasm goes.
Attention, per the current
Right?
government
And I
mandate,
think that's what
U.S.-based
you're
insurers
seeing.
are now required to cover
And,
at-home COVID testing
we gotta
kits
talk
every
about
month
that.
with no
'Cause
out-of-pocket
there's
fees
a
to you.
way
If you have
through
a
it.
current insurance plan, you are eligible
Because
to
I think
receive
that
up to
there's a
8
lot that
COVID-19
we are
tests
learning
shipped
on
to
our
your home or
journey.
business each month absolutely free.
politically.
Just visit testkitforfree.com
You know, my
to
father
begin the
often says that
registration
we were in
process.
slavery
When
longer than we've
completed,
been free, and
Tiero
that's
Health,
true.
a trusted
I can tell
source
you
for
there's a lot about
next-generation healthcare,
power
will submit a claim to your insurance
and
provider
politics that
through
we
no
did not know
deductible
when he
and
ran
no
for president the
copay.
first
Your
time.
8
And the
monthly
second
tests
time,
will ship
it's been an
directly to
evolutionary process for everybody.
Go to
Miss Jackson, we have a minute left before the break, and I have everyone except for Dwight McKee. He's going to be ready at 7.
sensitive tests
Okay,
by
thanks so
registering
much.
you and your family today. Visit
So we have
testkitforfree.com to
Patillo,
register from the comfort
C.K.
of your own
Hoffler,
home.
and
That's
and Chappelle.
Okay, thank you.
testkitforfree.com to
Mrs.
receive
Wells.
8 COVID-19
Great.
tests.
Right.
You
want me to put them through?
Just visit testkitforfree.com
All right, everybody,
today.
so-
Paid for by Tiero Health.
Call me. I want to hear what your thoughts are.
30 seconds.
Is there a black
including heart attacks,
male
but symptoms like jaw pain,
soda
nausea,
problem?
unusual
I talk to a lot of black men, and they do
dizziness,
say
and
that,
backache
CK.
are often
They really,
different
really
and
do.
more subtle
I
than
think
for a
that, you
man.
know, we got to say that. And it's not just Georgia. Remember, we've got Miss Beasley who's running, who's in a highly, tightly contested race in North Carolina. Everybody's looking at Georgia, but you've got several big races around the country that feature African Americans who are nominees of the Democratic Party that we're not hearing about. Val Demings is in a tighter than this race
We can
in Florida.
change the world.
Think about that.
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world. We can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world. I am
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. We're having part 2 of this conversation that we had yesterday that had everyone so stirred up about Democrats' problems with the black vote. There is a dampened enthusiasm. We're still voting Democratic, but the enthusiasm that was there is waning. Why? And what can be done to rekindle the excitement? Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. For those of you who, please remember to get registered to vote. We are less than 50 days away from the midterms. You need to vote. If you don't vote, you've made a decision too. But you got to vote. And after you vote, you have to get in the process and fight. I told you days ago, I look at Liz Cheney, and I'm glad that she's taken this principled stance on democracy and all of that, and affirming the presidential election. That having been said, if she becomes a Democrat, I won't celebrate that. Look, she lost a big fight in the Republican Party. You lose fights. I'm a Democrat. I've lost plenty of them. But you stay in the party and you fight, and you fight and you fight and you fight. One day you will win if you're right. Reverend might have lost the nominations in 84 and 88, but he's right. You see all of his children popping up: Stacey Abrams, Raphael Warnock, Sherry Beasley, Mandela Barnes, Bernie Sanders. Yep, Bernie Sanders came out of our campaign. You see, we winning every day. So she needs to get back in her party and fight it out. She voted with Trump 93% of the time. So she doesn't need to come over to the Democratic Party and try and turn us to the right. We got enough. We got that on lock. We have our own fights. I got Manchin and Sinema. That's trying to deal with them. I don't need anybody else. How about that? And stay in your own party and fight your own battles. Boom. Call me at 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. Let's talk about this. Why are black men, why did 12% of them vote for Trump in 2016? They were moving past 16% in 2020. What's going on? The Hispanic vote. Why are they leaving the Democratic Party? They're saying, you know what? The Democratic Party is a party of the poor, of working people. I don't want to be looked at as someone who's poor. So their aspirations are taking them in another direction. There are more Black people who are in line to go to Congress if they win their races, more Black Republicans than we've had in many generations. So what does that mean? What kind of Republicans are they? Are they Lincoln Republicans like our grandparents, or are they right-wing Republicans who are really browning up corporatism? I'll put it that way. And white supremacy. There's a lot going on here. But I must tell you, I have some friends who are Black and Republican. All of them are not white supremacists, just like all Black Democrats are not freedom fighters. So, let us be judicious in how we judge people. But before we get into it, we have a member of our panel today who is going to bring me some soup today, I do believe. Oh, you Chaparral from Celebrations by Us. Me and my family soup.
Yes, Santita, I am making it right now. Hopefully it'll be ready in a couple of hours, and we're going to have that oxtail soup for you. So yes, it's on and popping today. So we'll be making that delivery later on today. Yes, Santita, we are Celebrations by Us, your one-stop party connection, and we have all of your party and catering needs. We handle all of your food and decor. So don't hesitate to give us a call at 708-526-4546, 708-526-4546. Whether you need your balloon arches, your floral arrangements, your table setups, your custom backdrops, your food, we do it all here at Celebrations by Us. So call us at 708-526-4546, 708-526-4546. We look forward to serving you. Thank you so much.
Hey, everybody. Let's stay right there, Chaparral, because you said you wanted to be part of this conversation today. We're going to have Savannah. We're going to have Linear Bob. All of our morning stars are part of the conversation. This is something I tried to start, that I did begin. When I first started the show, I said, I want to have a people's roundtable where all of you, where you become part of the panel. We have legal Q&A with CK that typically begins at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. But today it's going to begin a little early. She said, CK, you said, I want us to continue this conversation that we started yesterday because it was very, very engaging. People were fired up, and they still are fired up. We could not get off the air. We couldn't get off of the conversation for more than an hour after we went off the air. And so I want you all to like and share, let people know that we are talking about this topic. Everybody call me at 773-763-9278. Black people are disenchanted with the party at a time when we are seeing the expressions of our having shaped the party. But there's still a fight within the party for us to get our fair share of respect, support, and all of that, and to have our concerns addressed. We're still waiting for voting rights and executive order. Yes, it would only last the length of the presidency of Joe Biden, but we still need it. We need protections at the polls. What about the Justice in Policing, the George Floyd Act? We need it. Seems that everybody else gets what they are promised as these candidates campaign. Everybody but Black people. Black people told that they need to wait. Now, mind you, like I said, this is not a sweets down conversation. This is a streets up conversation. So let's talk about this, everybody. Of course, CK Hoffler, you've got attorney Robert Botello, Southeastern Regional Director for Rainbow Push, host of his own show on WAOK in Atlanta from 1 to 4 every Sunday, Eastern Standard Time. Of course, you just came off of your show, CK, on WAOK yesterday at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And you've got your girl, Chaparral, who wanted to be a part of this today. So with all due respect, CK, why don't we let Chaparral kind of set the table for us, and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
because Chaparral said, look, I want you to know what's really going on out here. Chaparral, some people said that I was not sufficiently supportive of the Democratic Party. I don't know how they could ever say that. With as many assaults and insults as the Jacksons personally and institutionally have taken, I'm very supportive of the party. And I will also criticize the party. I've earned the right to do that. I've got the scars. And I will criticize them until they do what I think is best for the people. Chaparral, your thoughts? Do the Democrats have a problem with Black people at this point? They're already losing Hispanic support.
Absolutely. Black people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. I mean, that's the best way to put it, Santita. We have been told year after year that we will get, something for our vote. And we have not received a darn dime. And my thing is that every other ethnic group, every other LGBTQ, the Hispanics, they have received something for their vote. But Black people have not gotten a return on their vote. And so when I'm out here looking at my life and things that are important to me, justice and policing is very important because of what happened in my own personal life with my son. And so we have to realize that what the Democratic Party has to realize is that for Black people who are being accosted daily by police, you cannot sit up here and ignore what is happening to us. We had Sandra Bland. We had, let me see who else. We had George Floyd. We had all of these horrendous acts accosted against us. And we went out in the street and we did everything. And the Democrats told us, when you get these two people elected, we're going to pass this bill to give you the George Floyd and Justice and Policing Act. When it got up to Congress, it was immediately shut down. They stopped talking about it. They didn't even bring it up for a full vote. And that is an insult to us because you needed us. I'm tired of the Democratic Party telling us, we need you. Just like right now, they're telling us, we need you to come out and vote. We can't win. Stacey Abrams can't win. Val Deming can't win. Mandela Bar can't win if the Black people don't come out and vote. If I am so important to you and your party's success, then make me feel that way. Why do we have a president in office who have not signed an executive order for the Justice and Policing Act, for the Civil Rights Act, which he knows will, the Voting Rights Act, which he knows will help us to secure the vote for his party? So this tells me that they don't care whether or not we vote or not. They do not care because they have their own agenda. They have their own agenda and they are more aligned with the Republican Party than we believe. Because if you can sit up here, Joe Biden, and blatantly disregard the need for the Voting Rights Act to secure the ability for us to have a vote and for us to get to the polls, if you won't do that, you are speaking volumes to me that my vote does not matter to you, that you are okay with the status quo. And so when we have Democrats, they're going to come, it's like clockwork, Santita, 2 weeks before the election. Now they want to start pouring money in the campaign and trying to get people on the street. And guess what Black folks going to tell them? Blow off. And I'm being nice.
Even in this time, I mean, because I want to get to CK and Robert. Why now?
Like I tell everybody all the time, Santita, whether from what I can see, when we had Trump, my life was bad. When we had Biden, my life is bad. So I don't see a difference between the Republicans and the Democrats for Black Americans. We still struggling.
Well, very quickly, if you were in Georgia, where would you stand with the Herschel Walker-Raphael Warnock contest?
Well, most definitely, I will vote for Reverend Warnock. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is that what Black people are actually doing right now is we're voting not for a party, but for individuals.
Okay.
we're voting for individuals. Like, I will vote for my particular congressman, but I won't necessarily vote for JB. I will vote for this particular judge, but I won't vote for that one. So that's what Black people are doing. And so that's where you see the disconnect. Mm-hmm. And hopefully they will come out and stop for Reverend Warnock, because I believe that he is the best candidate for the job. But what I'm saying is that Democrats are taking a risk because they're not putting the issues, the kitchen table issues of Black Americans on the table in the forefront of the party.
CK, your thoughts? I mean, because she's just telling us how she's feeling, how she's living, how she interprets all of this, which is legitimate.
And I think there are a lot of people that feel the same way as Shapiro. I look at it slightly differently. And I don't think that the Democratic Party has, in many respects, continues to fail or not promote an agenda that resonates with Black people. From the passage of the failure of the passage of the George Floyd Justice Policing Act, I agree with Shapiro about not enough executive orders. There are a lot of things that can be done, even when Congress is deadlocked, even when you don't have enough votes in the Senate. There are a lot of things that the president can do, and there's some things that he has done. But in my impression, he hasn't gone far enough, without a question. And that is why people are feeling disenfranchised. But where I differ is, I don't think that the Republican Party, this is where I really differ with people, is the solution. They are 100 times worse. If we feel that the Democrat, and so that doesn't mean that we embrace the Democratic Party, but I just don't want anyone to get confused, and I'm not saying Shapiro's confused about this, about what the Republican Party would offer. Because the Republican Party has never, at least not in recent years, offered an agenda that was more, whose interests were more aligned with Black folks. They put together some little raggedy platform designed to lure people and to make people believe that they are somehow thinking about Black people. But this is the same party that has been the most historically, in some respects, particularly with legislation, racist, conservative. That is a party that has passed voter suppression laws. I live in voter suppression here in Georgia. So we have to be, in my impression, that's where I part with my narrative. The Democratic Party is not appealing to Black voters, but the Republican Party is not the answer. So what I would like us to continue to discuss is, what is the answer? We either work within the party, or we can become completely apathetic and don't vote. And not voting is throwing that vote to the party that is suppressing us and oppressing us more. We're in a bad place. And that is the dilemma that I believe African Americans face. Now, with Latino voters in general, I used to live in Florida. I still practice in Florida. It's a little bit different because you've always had a division. You can't really look at them as a monolithic voting bloc. And with the immigration laws, and this is a Black folks too, with what we saw as it relates to Haiti, what we continue to see with immigration laws, that is, in my impression, with many Latino voters who were previously solidly with the Democratic Party, that is what I believe has turned them the other way of late. Because it's very, very hard to justify, to see. They understood under Donald Trump, people didn't expect much under the Trump administration as it relates to immigration and other things. They just didn't expect much. But they did expect more with the Biden administration. They didn't expect to see men and women on horses whipping, it looked like whipping to me, immigrants from Haiti, the type of continuation, it appears, of a Trump-esque immigration policy. That was not expected, and I think that does also account for some of the defection, some people who are feeling completely disenfranchised that neither party is servicing their needs. But even those who feel that neither party is doing what they should be doing, many of them feel that the Republican Party is certainly not the answer. So then where do we go? I'm back, Santita, you mentioned Liz Cheney. We don't need to even discuss Liz Cheney.
No. Let me tell you why you need to discuss her. Because you always get this defection. The only reason Manchin is a Democrat is because that's the only way that helps him. And these folks don't pay attention to party, CK. They don't care about it. Party is a means. It's not an end. For us, it is an end. And I am concerned. It's just, it's just me. I'm concerned that as we are lifting her up and lauding her, we've forgotten about the Brooks Brothers riots of 2001 that her father led, which stole the election in 2001. And we are not looking at her own politics. She was at the Texas Tribune seminar. I mean, Texas Tribune is a hard left newspaper, at least editorially. And she was being applauded there as if she was some kind of heroine. I was like, what? But very quickly from you before we get to Robert and go to the break.
Right. But what I'm saying with Liz Cheney, I don't want to spend too much energy on Liz Cheney. Let her do what she's going to do. We do not need to embrace Liz Cheney or others who take that position and try to, bring them on into the party. Let them do what they're going to do. People fall out, kiss and make up all the time. We need to focus on, Liz Cheney is not a Democrat, so we need to move on, recognize what is happening, but not spend a lot of time on Liz Cheney in terms of the analysis of how the Democratic Party is not servicing the needs of Black folks. It's just a little footnote like, look at this. But I don't want us to get confused about Liz Cheney or any other Republican who's feeling somehow not excited about Donald Trump temporarily. Because trust me, when Donald Trump is a nominee, which he will be more than likely, everybody's going to align and they're going to kiss and make up and, we're stuck. And that will be that. And Black folks will be exactly where they are now. So I don't want to, that's what I mean by, we don't need to spend a lot of time on Liz Cheney in terms of the discussion of the disenfranchisement of Black folks and what they're feeling with the Democratic Party.
I just don't want her to come in the party, CK, and push it to the right, because that is the game that these people play over and over again. Because it was Bill Clinton and Al Gore and Sam Nunn and Chuck Robb who did not welcome 2.5 million voters that Reverend Jackson registered in 1983 and 1984. They said, if we are not successful in undercutting Jesse Jackson and the Rainbow Push Coalition, as they formed the Democratic Leadership Council, they said, if we're not successful in thwarting their efforts, we will leave and become Republicans. That is what they said. They said that. And you know what they did? They stayed in the party and they pushed it toward corporatocracy and they moved it to the right. And we've been catching the devil ever since. That's what I mean.
And that's exactly my point. That's exactly my point. I don't want us to get confused and think anybody's leaving any party.
No, I'm saying I don't want us to be confused. I'm with you. I want us to be clear, because I'm saying there's historical precedent for this.
But I'm good with being clear, but I don't want us to get confused on the discussion of why we, African Americans, are feeling disenfranchised. Liz Cheney has nothing to do with that discussion, but it's important when you look in the context of politics and what's happening in this country. That's the only clarification. That's the only footnote. I make it a footnote in the narrative of what's happening politically in this country. But I don't want us to, on the discussion of what's happening in our community, she's not part of our community. She's not impacting our community. She could have an impact on the party if she tries to lead something, and we need to keep our eye on that. But my prediction is they're going to kiss and make up, because at the end of the day, they're going to want a Republican president in office. And even though we are very disenfranchised, perhaps many feeling more that way now than ever, which is not unusual when we're approaching the midterm elections, because you're looking at the report card. Okay, what has this administration done? What have we gained? That is always what happens about now. But I think there's what I feel is a very, very important discussion, more than anything in this context, is making sure that we, as an African American community, do not allow others to push us apart or to forge a greater rift between Black men and Black women in terms of voting.
And the only way that you can do that, CK, is by letting the Chaparrals and the Darrells and the Phillips vent. Because these are the voters. These are the people who I promise you, Robert, we're going to let you speak. I'm going to give you your space when we get on the other side. I wanted to give you some space now because we're going to be bringing a couple of other people in. But Robert Patillo, we will bring you on the other side of the break. You got to let people talk. Because when I got off of the air, no, I'm just telling you what I had to deal with on social media and direct messages and people calling me and on and on and on and on that, you're not sufficiently pro-Democrat. I'm like, wait. No, don't ever accuse Jackson of not being pro-Democrat. Even though every time we've had to run for office, we've had to run against the party. The party has always been after us because we're not corporatocrats. We're Democrats, but we're independent. And we grew up in Chicago. Chicago, the Democrats were the oppressive force, CK. They were never the Freedom Party. You had to work with the Republicans. You had to work with Senator Chuck Percy. You had to work with Governor Ogilvy. You had to work with Big Jim Thompson. You had to work with those people in order to get some relief in Chicago. So we are clear on the joke. And if you wanted a job, you needed to be on that Democratic plantation. That is the way it worked here. So pardon me, when I look at the Democrats and the Republicans, I'm like, look, all these people use these parties as a means to an end. Now, I want us to begin to use parties as a means to an end. I want us to get our voting rights. And if the Democrats are the horse you need to ride on right now, and apparently they are, then make them do it. If you need justice in policing and the Democrats are the horse that you need to ride on, and right now they are, make them do it. And do not give the president or anybody else, the vice president or anyone, any space. You've done that before. It did not work. Stop giving people space on what it is that you need. You might not have who you want in office, but you need to make sure that whoever is in your office delivers on your needs. That's my point. I could give less than a hoot about a party. I care about the people. But right now, I know that the Democrats, that's the horse I can ride on. But I'm going to kick them all the way and make them do, since they're not so inclined, because this ain't no love fest, everybody. This is not a date. It's a destination. Don't fall in love. Make your politicians fall in line with you. Don't you fall in line with them. More of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Call me at 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278, because everybody wants to talk about this. And the phone is ringing. Renee, you've been calling. Look, we tried to leave some of the lines open today so that we could get you to call in, but continue to call us at 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. We want to hear your voices today. Back in just a moment. Henry, they're saying, can you bring the radio down just a bit? Henry, they're saying that the phone just keeps ringing. Are there any lines open?
Yeah, there's one open, and it's just there was a guest earlier. Yeah,
because they're sending me messages that the phone's just ringing.
Yeah, it's I'm just trying to balance between that.
Oh, okay. No. Just let me know so I can let them know. Okay, so you're going to bring on Savannah, and so when we bring on Savannah and
Dwight
and Mr. McKee, we're not going to have any lines, will we?
Press you for we'll have one, I believe.
Okay.
Social Security does not accept
Robert
payments
Patillo, are you
card,
still there?
prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mail-in cash. Criminals
Robert?
use these forms of payment because they are
Okay,
hard to
good.
trace.
We're going to come to you.
Don't fall for it. Hang up.
And everybody kind of compress your remarks because we don't have a lot of time in these segments. The segments are like 18 to 20 minutes
Technologies
long.
provides growing businesses with the tools to do incredible things.
So let's
for advice
make
on
them a
smart
little
PCs
tighter.
powered by Intel V Pro that's built for business, call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL.
This is AP News. I'm Rita Foley. Fierce Hurricane Ian is getting stronger fast. It's off Florida's southwest coast this morning with 155-mile-per-hour winds. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said just a few moments ago.
It is now a Category 4 hurricane with maximum sustained winds of up to 155 miles per hour. That is knocking on the door of a Category 5 storm.
The National Hurricane Center's Eric Blake.
We expect this to cause a extremely dangerous, life-threatening storm surge.
Okay, you know what, everybody? We're on Facebook Live right now. You all can speak with each other. You know, I'm trying to take care of some radio stuff. I don't do a lot of talking during the breaks because I'm dealing with some other technical stuff. But Chappelle, Robert, CK, you all want to engage with each other in these next couple of minutes before we come off the air before we go right back on the air?
I didn't want to risk it, so I went with my Chihuahua and my
CK,
daughters, and we went
Chappelle,
down, and,
anybody?
you know,
And CK, you sound a little. Are you on a speaker?
This is the same hurricane that slammed into Cuba, knocking out the power of the whole island.
Okay, because it doesn't sound as clear, and I want you to sound crisp.
Hurricane. Hi, Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
I believe the number for Savannah is not working.
Okay, can you send me?
To Cuba's 11 million
Hold
people.
on, Miss
Power
Savannah.
initially
Hold
was
on 1
knocked out
second.
to about 1 million people in Cuba's western
send this
provinces,
to
but
you.
later the entire grid collapsed. I'm Donna Warner.
The European
I'm
Union
gonna
is
send this to you,
outraged
okay?
over the suspected sabotage of 2 underwater natural gas
Thank you.
pipelines from Russia
Okay,
to Germany.
Savannah.
The EU
Need
warning
you
retaliation for any attack on Europe's energy networks. Today, President Biden is hosting a conference on hunger, nutrition, and health, the first by the White House since 1969. This is AP News.
Okay. Oh.
Now to North Korea.
Okay, I'm sending you
CAP's
this number
Charles
again.
Ledesma has this.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have Dwight McKee on?
Yes, we do.
Okay, CK, you were saying something?
The South's Joint Chiefs of Staff says.
No, I was just no.
Oh, now you sound better. You sound better now. I don't know what it is.
I was just
and how far it's traveled.
It is critically important, of course, for us to hear. The only way that we know what direction to go in is that we hear the voices of the people. And that is, and so it's always critically important to hear the voices of the people and whatever we're doing. That's how the Democratic Party, actually every political party, should be governed. It's not always what happens, but that's how it should be. But I do want
Gas is $3.76 a gallon this morning. The price is
Okay, hold on. Hold on.
8 cents
I
cheaper,
need you to
says
turn
the
down
I'm
the
Rita
radio.
Foley, AP News.
Better.
Okay, thank you so much. CK, yes, so I can hear. Thank you.
Also, Savannah's still not answering.
everybody is feeling some kind of way for different reasons. I mean, really, really feeling, some kind of way that with the Democratic Party, and I can only speak for the Democratic Party because that's what I'm a Democrat. But I do think that sitting here in Georgia, and I hate to keep on coming back to Herschel Walker, but we just cannot look at solutions like Herschel Walker. We cannot look at solutions like Herschel Walker. We need to be really concerned about having the current governor come back into power in Georgia. He has made it very clear he intends to continue, in my words, to suppress the vote by pushing all of this voter suppressive legislation without a question. He has enacted laws that are completely the antithesis of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act here in Georgia. I want to talk about something that we need to keep our eye on. Governors that are pushing these laws that go counter to the George Floyd Justice and Policing. In addition to that,
60 seconds.
To a discussion on the overturning of Roe versus Wade. But he's made it abundantly clear.
Also, I still am not able to reach Savannah. I'm just going to keep trying to contact her during the show, but I just don't have her yet.
Okay, thank you.
Than the U.S. Supreme Court opinion, Justice Alito's opinion. So, we have to look at those things when we're trying to make a determination as to whether or not we support Stacey Abrams or Brian Kemp if we are African American, whether we're black male or female in this state. Those are issues. Policing Act, what we're going to do, how black men and black women, but black men in particular, are treated in this state. That is what he stands for. So if you want to talk about issues that should resonate with black folks just across the board, I think
we're about to come back.
Talk about issues.
Hold on, hon.
Hands down, it's spot on the issues. Hands down. In Georgia.
Okay. Sorry, you guys.
And here we are.
Okay, thank you.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. Oh, yes, we can. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am green.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. We're really trying to wend our way through this election season. We're inside of 50 days of the primaries. It's hard to believe that the midterms are here, but they are here. And everything's up for grabs. The whole U.S. House of Representatives, the whole U.S. Senate. I mean, the balance is up for grabs. But then on the state levels, where everything is controlled, I mean, they determine who goes to Washington. They determine your congressional district. They determine everything. Out of these states, we're beginning to see how consequential the states are. Everything is turning on this, and Black people are turning away from the Democratic Party. What's going on? Black men in particular. But the numbers are growing with Black women too. What's going on? There's a lot of discontent. We're talking about it. We're talking about not just the discontent, but what we can do, how we can become even more activist ourselves so that you stay in for the fight. You stay in for the fight. I mean, I will continue to bring up Liz Cheney because I think you need to watch her. You need to watch her because people are playing a lot of games with her. They're playing a lot of games because some folks float between parties. And I don't want us to be fooled by what we're seeing with her. This is a very right-wing, conservative Republican who has corporatist politics. Don't be fooled. She is not your friend. I appreciate what she's doing with the January 6th committee. She should be doing it. Every upstanding American should take the stance that she's taken. But don't think that if she's going to campaign for Democrats, what's she going to say? I don't like Trump. That's it? No, that's not enough. Because I need affirmative action. I need student loan debts canceled. I need all of that. And if you're not going to campaign like that, then stay home or at least stay away from me. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. And I'm coming to you from WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Call me at 773-763-9278. Let's talk, everybody. So many of you have wanted to talk. We had to bring this conversation back today because you wanted to talk about your feelings about the Democratic Party, your feelings about the Republican Party, your feelings about the way we are and are not voting. What is going on out here? Chappelle brought up some really interesting points yesterday, and I want you to bring them up very quickly, Chappelle, before we speak to Robert Patillo and Dwight McKee, and of course, his legal Q&A with CK. CK said, I want to talk about this today because we are right on the precipice of a new election. And who can believe Senator Warnock and Herschel Walker are in basically in a statistical dead heat in Georgia. And what about Sherry Beasley in North Carolina? We're not talking about her. Mandela Barnes, Charles Booker in Kentucky. There are more registered voters who are Democrats in Kentucky than there are Republicans. Why aren't we really amplifying that race? There's a lot that we need to be talking about. Val Demings is this close to unseating Marco Rubio, this close. A former chief of police. What's the deal? They need more support. They need more shine. I'm Santita Jackson. Let's get to some of these headlines. Chicago, a high of 59 degrees, scattered showers. It's been raining off and on all night. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 62 degrees, mostly sunny. The White Sox and the Twins faced off yesterday, and the Twins shut the White Sox down 4-0. The Cubs, too. The Phillies won. The NFL took the time to be off last night. More than 2.5 million people have been urged to evacuate as Hurricane Ian barrels toward Florida, threatening catastrophic flooding and life-threatening storm surges. Ian has strengthened within the past few hours to a Category 4 hurricane with sustained winds of 140 miles per hour. The House Select Committee investigating the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol postponed its hearing scheduled for today in light of Hurricane Ian heading toward Florida. The panel had originally set the hearing to reveal new information it has uncovered since its last hearing on July 21st, but they are respecting the people of Florida and marshaling their resources to get them some help, as is President Biden. Leaders of several Western countries in Europe say leaks in 2 Russian gas pipelines are likely the result of sabotage. Swedish authorities sounded the alarm on Tuesday about leaks in the Nord Stream gas pipelines, which run under the Baltic Sea near Sweden and Denmark and have been major flashpoints in the energy war between Europe and Russia. The 2 affected pipelines were not in operation when the leaks were found, but both still contain are contained gas under pressure. We'll see how all of this works, everybody. In the meantime, some of the top schools in the United States, public schools, are right here in Chicago, and one of them is my alma mater, Whitney Young High School. Thank you very much. 3 of the top 10 public high schools in the United States are here in Chicago. Yay! Number 2 is Peyton College Prep. Number 5 is Northside College Prep. Number 6, Illinois Mathematics and Science Academy. And rounding out the top 10, come on, the Dolphins of Whitney Young. Mighty, mighty, mighty. Everybody, I love it. I love it. I love it. It makes me feel very good. And listeria, everybody, it can make you very, very sick. We have a listeria alert here in the state of Illinois. Please watch your meat, everybody. More than 60 meat products sold in our state have been recalled over listeria concerns. They bear the establishment number EST 20917. EST 20917. You know, we've been talking about financial freedom. We've been talking about freedom on this show. That's a real big issue for us. And I want you to call Team Hochberg if you're trying to organize your finances. If you don't have credit, if you have poor credit, broken credit, if you have had a bankruptcy, if you want to buy a home, but you're like, I don't have the credit for a home. I don't have the money for a home. I don't have a plan. You got to have a plan. Call Team Hochberg. They can help you. If you want to purchase a new home, if you want to refinance the home that you've got, if you need an FHA loan, a VA loan, if you just need to get your financial house in order, call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, and get the free consultation. Tell them everything. They can go back and figure out what your issue is, and then they will come back to you with a plan. They will negotiate with your credit card companies. They will let you know what a reverse mortgage is. They will help you to get on your feet financially. That's what they did for Tom and Sonia, 2 kids, 17 credit cards, $100,000 of debt on those credit cards. Well, they sat down with Team Hochberg, and guess what happened? Team Hochberg was able to negotiate with the credit card companies their $100,000 debt all the way down. They reduced their payments by over $2,800 a month. And then they were able to secure an FHA loan even as they were negotiating that debt. That's right. And now they are on the road to financial freedom. That could be you. That could be you. So call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or go to 56david.com, 56david.com, and get on the road to financial freedom. Everybody, we have got Legal Q&A with C.K. Hoffler. Boy, we've been having some wonderful conversations. I love my dear sister C.K. as we've been trying to figure out our way through this, through so much that is going on. Of course, Shapiro Wells is joining us, giving us her perspective, just really an everyday perspective on what people are discussing, what they're saying they're going to do and not do as they come into the midterms. I hope you'll vote. Go to vote.org, so that you can find out if you've been purged from the voter rolls. And in fact, on October 11th, Greg Palast is coming into Chicago, and we're going to be with Rick Smith hosting an event at Rainbow Push, CK. You're, of course, going to be at his red carpet event, I believe, on October 5th, as we look at his film that looks at the attempt to steal the vote in Georgia. And we're going to have a discussion afterwards, as you will, in Georgia, so that we can figure out how we can save the vote, everybody. Robert Patillo was joining us, of course, and Dwight McKee. And we're trying to get Savannah. Savannah, if you're listening to us, call in, because we've not been able to get through on the phone on the number that you provided us yesterday. But let me start with you before I get you, Dwight. CK, we didn't hear from Robert in the last half hour. And Robert, the question was yesterday is, do Democrats have a black male voter problem? Are they driving a wedge between black men and black women? Are black men being set up to take the fall if Stacey Abrams does not win? I mean, what are you hearing? What's the deal?
Yeah, one good thing about doing radio that I've noticed over the last few years is that it makes you sound like you're really smart, when in reality all you're doing is articulating what your callers and what your listeners tell you. And I've been kind of sounding the alarm on this issue that Democrats are going to have in this upcoming election since the fall of 2018, because we saw the numbers were on we saw the writing was on the wall in 2016 when President Trump was the first Republican presidential candidate pretty much since George Bush in the faith-based initiative in his first term back in 2002, 2003. The first Republican candidate to really get out there and start campaigning directly to black people. President Trump, when he was coming in, had a lot of hip hop cred. If you watch Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, you saw President Trump there. If you watched rap videos, and I think they said there were something like 90 rap songs that mentioned Donald Trump at some point in time. So, he was hanging out with Diddy, hanging out with Mike Tyson, sponsoring fights in Atlantic City. And so he had some appeal to African-American men just through familiarity. But what that turned into was the Republicans actually putting money into black communities, putting money into opening field offices. There's a Republican field office in College Park that Herschel Walker goes down to campaign at, located in a black community, because they've learned and figured out that, well, there's some space here where we might be able to weasel into. At the same time, you had the Democratic Party in the wake of the election of Doug Jones in Alabama really doubling down on the focusing on black women, and that's the right thing to do. Black women are amazing and wonderful, and electorally they are super voters and beyond. But what they allowed to happen was that the corporate interests and the corporate donors riding that trend that they were riding at the time started to push a wedge between the needs and interests of African American men and the interests and needs of African American women. For some reason in this country, we think to lift one group up, we have to push another group down. So while pushing for the lionization of our systems, as was well deserved and should have happened, they began the process of neglecting African American men, and that's where that process of President Trump with the meetings with Ice Cube, meeting with Kanye West, bringing in the Platinum Plan, talking about Tim Scott and his opportunity zones, putting together an African American Men's Economic Council, etc. That's where that started to kind of eat away at that percentage of the vote. At the end of the day, if Republicans decided tomorrow to just give up racism as part of their party platform. But they just said, look, we're not going to do the QAnon, we're not doing the Confederate stuff, we're just going to go straight policy, straight down the middle, not all the so much of the culture war stuff, but just on policy. They will get 30 to 40% of the black vote. It's only them and their allegiance to racism that keeps a lot of black men still part of the Democratic Party.
Well, that's
and at some point,
big deal.
At some point, they're going to get that message and understand that there's not a whole lot of new, young, excited racists coming along down the lines. So we're going to have to change the demographics of who we campaign to. And I'm wary to see where the Democratic Party goes then, when they can't fall back on that crutch of saying, well, the Republicans are racist and so we're the lesser of the two evils. In reality, we have to end the two-party system in America. Any other advanced democracy, you either have a one-party communist party system or you have a multi-party parliamentary system where each group competes, they form coalition governments, they're able to come to each group has a level of representation, they're able to come to compromises, and it seems to be a lot more efficient than our current corporatocracy, where large corporations buy a Republican senator, buy a Democratic senator, and they control the country. So at the place that we are at currently, black men again have become the scapegoats of politics. That if Democrats win, it's never our vote that puts them over the top. It's never, thank God for all these black men coming out to vote so we could win. But if they lose, all of a sudden, well, why didn't these black men turn out to win? It must be because of misogyny, and that's why I lost, even though I lost by 10 points. So that was definitely the black men who did it. And I think there's a level of resentment from that in many circles, particularly for younger African-American male voters. There's a lack of platform when it comes to talking to their issues. Many Democrats, if you just get them in a corner at a dinner party and ask them, well, what are you going to do for black men? The first thing they're going to start with is the criminal justice reform talking point, and then they're going to go to the voting rights.
Well, hold on.
Because that's what the advisors have told them.
Hold
but
on.
They don't have any further policy.
No, hold on. With all due respect, I didn't interrupt. Well, I guess I did interrupt you, CK, but it's only to engage, not to cut anyone off. I'm confused. Not confused. No, I'm disappointed that everything that Black women do is for Black men. Everything we do. We even raise our sons. We raise our daughters and love our sons. Everything we do is for you, to protect you, to do everything that we can. Cutting deals on the plantation, having our bodies be used to save your lives. That's all we have ever done. So to me, to hear the question, okay, what are you going to do for Black men? Everything you do for a Black woman, you do for a Black man. Me, Robert. What helps me helps you. Sometimes white men will work are less threatened by me. So I'm like, okay, I get it. Let me go get it and bring it home to both of us. You feel me?
I do, and that's why I'm saying that we have to stop allowing outside groups to separate us. It does not need to be a zero-sum game. It should not be, well, if you're helping Black women, then you're not addressing the issues of Black men, or vice versa. It's not as if Exxon goes to Congress and says, well, help me out, but don't help out British Petroleum. No, everybody gets to win at the same time, and we have to stop letting these outside groups separate our agendas. Now, there are, of course, going to be some particular issues that one group might have that the other doesn't, but at the same time, we need to be in an all-of-the-above place when it comes to policies to help our community, not in this place of thinking that, well, if you help Black men, you're not helping Black women. If you help Black women, you're not helping Black men. We have to stop acting as if these resources are finite. Congress meets dang near every day. They could pass a different law every day. They simply decide not to. And as they say in the first day of political science class, politics is a question of who gets what when. And by pitting us together as to who's going, if we're going to handle infant mortality, then we're not going to handle criminal justice reform. If we're going to handle creating educational opportunities for African American women, then we're not going to do business opportunities for African American men. That's the way they try to play the politics. When in reality, they could do all of the above and stop this separation that seems to be happening. But we pit groups together saying, well, we can only do one thing for Black folks at this time. That's where you start getting this separation and take place. And that's why many young African American men simply check out of the process, because they feel like in that competition of who gets what when, well, it's got to be the corporations first, and then it's got to be the wealthy liberal elite second, then it has to be the military industrial complex third, then it has to be the white women fourth, then it has to be the Jewish community fifth, then it has the LGBT community down the line from there, then it has to be the Hispanic community, then it has to be Black women, and somewhere at the end of the line, you get to Black men, and somewhere after that, maybe dogs. And I think the dogs probably come in front of them. And that's the feeling that they have. So it's not so much that I'm articulating to you what I've heard from hundreds of callers to my show over the last few years whenever we get to this electoral season, that they simply feel that they are not heard, they're not understood, and when they try to speak up for themselves, they are shouted down. There's nothing worse to tell somebody who's going through something that they're not going through it, that they're making it up, that's not in their head. I think anybody who's been in a relationship who said, hey, why you acting so crazy? Stop. That ain't how it is. That's not the way to calm somebody down. I think that's the way we treat African American men in their politics.
Dwight McKee, I've got about 4 minutes before we go to break.
Well, I think that the answer is third party. I think that, the United States is about the only country, civilized country, industrial country in the world that has only two parties. The way the rest of the world politics work is that you have a series of parties that all of them operate in their self-interest. You have a Labor Party. You have parties who are very distinctive, very focused on their own interests, and then they leverage their influence and negotiate between themselves for what they're trying to accomplish. I think that what we have to have is a people's party that is somewhere between the Republicans and the Democrats, who then can leverage the interests for the people. I always wish that the Rainbow Coalition would have done that. is that we'll become a third party.
Well, we wanted to,
but
let me say this officially. The problem was this: you had blacks who were already vested in the party, who said, "Look, now I'm just telling you, I'm telling you the pressure that was on Reverend, okay, and then there was public pressure with that too."
What I'm saying is that I think this either or politics, and it's either the Republicans or the Democrats, will never fully work for us because they just play one against the other, and we become not the leverage, but become the sacrifice. As Robert just said, is they just keep pushing us to the back of the line as they cut their own deals, and it's always at our expense. But if we are dealing with a people's party, if there are more than one party, if we got a party at our own interest and our commitment is to ourselves, not to the Democrats or the Republicans, and then we play them against each other and leverage our power against them, it gives us more power and it gives us a chance to both define and put on the table those issues that we find important. And those who are willing to buy into it get our vote. Those parties that are willing to buy into it get our votes, and those parties that are not willing to buy into it don't get our votes. I think that's a possible answer.
Well, but we don't have that right now. So what about? I've got 1 minute.
Well, we have to move forward. We have to move toward it right now.
But what about November?
If we keep saying that we don't, if we keep saying we don't have that right now, we'll never get it. Because it becomes, next time. And next time, for some reason, of us, never comes. I mean, we need a party that deals with this primary philosophy is reparations. We need a party whose primary position is energy. And the interests are already there. We just have never organized around our interests. Because we keep having this mythological belief that somehow if we just be true to the Democrats or court the Republicans, that somehow it's going to be our turn and they're going to include us.
Well, I can tell you this.
For some reason, that never comes.
I'm going to tell you as we go to break, I hear you and I feel you. It's just that when you are in the belly of the beast, as we have been for the past 40 plus years, no one pushed Reverend Harder to get away from the Democratic Party and create our own than his wife and children. But he said, we have other calculations because many of the people who are in the party, the Ron Browns, et cetera, they don't want to leave. And many black folks won't follow you. There's that too. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Okay, everybody, let's engage. We're on Facebook Live. Y'all talk. Chaparral, CK, something. I'm trying to.
Well, you said that Ron Brown didn't want to leave. So you see what happened.
Well, don't say that now. But no, but what I am saying is, and it was Bill Lynch. It was black folks who could not break through into leadership in the Democratic Party. Right, well, Reverend was their vehicle, but they told him because all hell broke loose for us in '92 because Clinton had been so disrespectful, and what he had anticipated was running against Reverend in '92, and when Reverend decided not to run, and Reverend was a presumptive front runner in '92, it threw everything off. But what he had to do was throw Reverend under the bus, and sadly, black people cooperated. Because you had a white man who looked like he liked black people. Oh no, we collude with the people who try to jam us. He came to our convention, CK. You were probably there, and he brought up the Sister Soldier moment. We walked into the dining room where he was going to speak, and you could barely get 1,000 people who were there who were at our luncheon for all the press who were there. We're like, what's up? By the end of the luncheon, we knew what was up. He had been throwing shade all during the campaign. Now, look, we're close to the Clintons now. That's politics. I get it. But I'm just saying. And when Reverend finally had to endorse him, we were furious. We were furious. And Sharpton will tell you that because he was backstage with us at the Apollo because we were just angry because we were like, we don't want you to use your political capital to help this guy. That's what we were. All of us felt that way. But he made a political calculation. Okay. I mean, so now that was Reverend's era. My thing is, what is Reverend Sharpton doing? Because he's the guy in the Democratic Party. No. What is he doing now? What does he say about this?
No. Everybody, no. But that was 40 years ago, Santita.
Wait a minute. That was 30.
Now we can have a new politics.
And and that's why I'm saying because now this is his moment, Dwight. My question is because that was 40 years ago, and that got us here. So my question is now, what is the conversation? Because that's a conversation you're having. You're very current in this conversation.
And I'm saying that my conversation is third party to everybody. My conversation, we need to try to have a discussion about third party. The only thing I think that really threw us again for a loop was Obama. It's because we had this illusion that Obama was going to be the savior. Then he became also the distraction. And so we really began to believe.
Hi, Miss Jackson. We have about a minute to go, and I just got Linear Bob.
Hypnotized into believing that. But we see now that was a ploy. That was just a distraction. That the fact of the matter is they're never going to change that way for us. And that now we should really begin to start, like Robert, begin to have a discussion about third party, our own interests, and then we leverage our own interests between whatever parties are out there. Robert, why don't you develop this
30 seconds?
Because you started out mentioning that.
Well, no. I have to go to some of these callers. I will come back to Robert. Stay right there. That's why you all talk during the breaks. Because I got to bring these callers in because people are very engaged in this topic, CK. They're very, very engaged in it. I've got Dynamo Dave. I've got Linear Bob, who's one of our morning stars. How much time do we have, Henry?
We are going back now.
Thank you.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody, what are we going to do about November 2022? There is discontent out here with, I just think in America in general. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Most Americans don't trust our institutions, the Supreme Court, the government, all of that. And we're seeing it filter down into the parties. But Black people continue to vest their hopes and aspirations in the Democratic Party at this time. More of us are becoming Republican. But then there are groups of us who are saying, you know what? Well, even George Washington said that a two-party system was not what he wanted to see in America because he felt it would become tyranny would be the result, CK. That's what he said. Let me bring in a couple of these callers before we get to everybody else. Dynamo Dave. How you doing, Dynamo Dave?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for taking my call.
Of course.
You are the sunshine of Chicago.
Thank you.
And I am your listener's brother with the absence of color. But anyway, I wanted to, first of all, I always love those guests. Those are the guys and women that have been talking this last thing. I wanted to bring up the whole party, lack of all of our laws favor a two-party system versus, multiple parties like other countries. And then, do you remember early on in the Democratic debates, the vice president, she came out and brought up the busing issue, that she was affected by a busing issue as a child based on the president's vote back in 1970, whatever it was. And it's like very interesting that we have her. She identifies as Black. I'm not sure what her ancestry is, but she identifies as black. And she turns around.
Her father's black.
Doing on those two civil things, those two things that you earlier, I think Shapiro brought up. The George Floyd Act and the Lewis Act. Where is she on that? She should be, a campaigner with the Senate, to get the Senate to pass that thing, or twisting Biden's arm to do an executive order on both those things.
Okay. All right. Well, we will see. I know she's doing a lot of lobbying behind the scenes, but she can't jump out in front of the president, Dynamo. She can't do that.
She can't what?
She can't jump out in front of the president.
No. Well,
she can't. She can't do that.
These are important issues, though. These very.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you, but the role of the vice president is supposed to be respectful, and they have to lobby behind closed doors. It is disrespectful for them to jump out in front of the president on an issue. I'm just telling you, that's how that works in any corporation, and our government is that. But Dynamo Dave, you make some points. I love it. I love it. I love it. Let me go to Chris from Wheaton. Chris, what's on your mind? Chris, you there? Well, while we get up, Chris, let me go to.
I'm sorry. I'm unmuted myself. Hello, you there?
Hey, sweetie, what's on your mind?
Hello. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Great discussion as always. What I came to, you were really teaching this morning, reminding people, because I don't fear it, I know it, that a huge hole in generally the white self-proclaimed progressive movement is a misunderstanding of how the Democratic Party themselves have abused black people throughout the years and used, frankly, black people's labor, votes, and culture to obtain power while not serving them. And I absolutely agree with you strongly on that. And I appreciate you teaching and reminding people because, history is lost when we don't talk about it. So I appreciate that. However, my bone to pick with you is that I'm not sure. It's not a surprise that the Democratic Party is about power, just like these Republicans are about power. Mm-hmm. My concern with the separation between black men and black women is mostly born of what's currently happening online, which is what they call the men's rights movement, or more specifically, the black men's rights movement, mm-hmm. which is a deeply misogynistic, deeply anti-black woman movement that was embodied by Kevin Samuels, who's recently passed on. Mm-hmm. But if you want to know where that is born and where it's being propagated, and it's not, to be clear, it's not just within the black community. There is a massive, massive misogynist movement that's geared towards young boys and men. But I would be wrong, and I'd be speaking untruths if I wasn't being honest that the number of anti-black women, black men who are creating content on a daily basis that's born of distrust and resentment and, frankly, hatred and self-hatred, because as you said, what we do for ourselves, we do for each other. I'm not sure it's the Democratic Party that can be blamed for that. Maybe it was born there or something politically hundreds of years ago. I don't know. But I will tell you that the movement online right now is very, very heavily anti-black woman. And that's my only thoughts on that.
Okay. I mean, look, I hear you. Linear Bob, you're one of the Santita Jackson. Thank you so much, Chris. Always giving us something to think about. And you too, Dynamo Dave. Linear Bob, how you doing?
Fascinated listening. I'm in a different group, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. I'm almost 80 years old. I'm working class. I've been a union organizer, a shop steward, a negotiating team member for a local government organization, which actually also had a television station where I was a broadcast engineer. And I'm still a broadcast engineer, which is why my everything else is turned down, and I'm using a landline because I know it works.
Thank you. Oh, gosh, thank you.
Well, I've been there as a board operator. I've been there. And see, this is the problem. I have a long memory. And I remember back about 1990 approximately, Ross Perot talking about a giant sucking sound at NAFTA. And I remember hearing about in the move up to about 2015, I was hearing about a thing called TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership. And I remember hearing Hillary Clinton pushing that pretty hard. And a lot of people that I know as working class people were saying, oh, no, that's NAFTA on steroids. And I remember hearing Donald Trump promise to get us out of the TPP. And when he actually got elected, he delivered on that. And a whole lot of working people who saw jobs being shipped first to Mexico and then to China and never coming back to this country, there's a reason why a large part of our country is called the Rust Belt. And that's because that's where the manufacturing jobs used to be. And that's the thing that I see. A lot of people are voting saying we don't need to ship more jobs offshore.
Well, let me ask you this, Linear Bob. Is this a source of discontent in the white community with respect to
I think it is.
Democratic Party?
I think it's working class people who feel they've been had one too many times. They've been told, we're going to give you the 15-hour minimum wage. We're going to give you a $2,000 stimulus check. There's a bunch of a trail of broken promises in this administration to working class people. And there's a lot of discontent in the white community that I'm part of. But I have to tell you, I don't think it's just white people. I think it's working class in general. And I think it's women, too, who see their only option is, do you want fries with that? That's not going to make it. You need better paying jobs. You need jobs that you can depend on so you can pay the damn rent. Because right now, rents are going sky high, but the wages aren't following. And the Democratic Party made promises to do something about it, but I haven't seen it. And I think a lot of people are saying, I'm not going to vote for either one of them because they're not delivering. Although Donald Trump did deliver on getting us out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Stay right there, CK. You've heard a whole lot, and this is something you wanted to talk about today, girl. I don't know what you opened up, but have at it.
Well, first of all, I'm glad that we had this discussion, and I'm glad that we opened this up, Santita, and continued it, because this is really where we need to be as a country.
Why do you say that?
Because it doesn't matter if you disagree. I always say I'm a trial lawyer, so by definition, every single day of my life, I'm disagreeing with my opposing counsel. Not some days, every day. So disagreement can a lot of times lead to very strong solutions. It's important to talk about these things because if we listen to just the callers today, and the callers on my show, some of them really, really feel very strongly about these issues too. We listen to the callers. What we know is that this is at the heart of what people are feeling. But when people talk about it, when they think about it, they think through solutions. They talk about it in their community. Then they are more engaged. The key to me is voting because we can't give up on voting. When we give up on voting, the reputations are worse. And so that's why I feel that this is healthy. It's great. We need to keep on talking about it, and we need to get to the polls because without voting in different people who resonate more. And a lot of people who resonate more.
Hold on one moment. Hold on one moment. Henry, you're going to have to put Mrs. Wells on mute or put her on hold for a moment, okay? So that we can hear Attorney Hoffler. Okay. CK?
So, Santita, I think it's very healthy. I think it's wonderful. I think that we should continue always. That's one thing that's magnificent about your show. We should continue to have this kind of dialogue because the dialogue results in people being engaged, results in people going back to their community, results in people saying, we can do this, and voting. If people are tired of one thing, then vote where you feel that your interests lie. That's what we need to do. I just personally, this is my personal view. This is not, I'm affiliated with so many organizations, so I'm not speaking on behalf of an organization. My personal view is, yes, without a question, Black folks feel disengaged, feel taken advantage of by the Democratic Party. That's not a new feeling, by the way. We all know that. You shared some of the history of when your dad was running. I was there too, involved because I was, as you know, I've been a lawyer for 36 years. So I was all there behind the scenes as a lawyer when all that was taking place. But I will say this, that we have to keep on fighting. I say complacency, and yes, we can feel disenfranchised, but the way to get out of that is by continuing the dialogue and by continuing action, not just talking about it, but action. And I say that because I'm sitting here in Georgia, where action is immediate, is needed, must happen, because we're on the precipice of serious disaster.
Well, you know, or
But
serious
serious
opportunity.
disaster.
Because if Reverend had left the party, you wouldn't have Stacey Abrams today. You wouldn't have Raphael. You wouldn't have Sherry Beasley.
You wouldn't have.
I mean, and mind you, and I
wouldn't
still
have-
have my issue, CK, with a corporatist party. That it bothers me. That having been said, and that was one of the debates I used to have, Dwight McKee and Robert Patillo with Frank Watkins, God rest his soul, all the time. Because I'm like, I'm disappointed. I'm not just disappointed. I'm angry about this, because that which they are espousing ain't helping the people. You know, but you got to be in it to win it, everybody. You have to vote. You do have to vote. That having been said, no, let me finish this, and Dwight, you can come on in. But that having been said, I think that people should have a third party option. We've been trying to do that. But the fact is, Dwight, my question is, are we willing? Are we willing?
Well, the first thing we have to do is stop living vicariously, because what they do is every time we get ready to buck, they wave a Negro at us, whether it's Obama or Kamala. We'll give you a vice president, and we glory in that. We'll give you a Supreme Court justice, and we glory in that because we live vicariously. We think one person's profile is a victory for everybody, and that's not inherently true. We have to deal with the interest, the policy of the party. The fact of the matter is, what Donald Trump did was he really created a third party, the Trump party. They are not conventional Republicans or conventional Democrats. It is really his party. And so there's enough collective interest between poor whites and progressive whites and disaffected blacks and the Latino crowd that with a third party, not only will we become a force, become a factor, we could become the majority party and have our own president.
You know, and it has been that way for a long time. I guess one of my questions is how does that happen? But even then, let me say this. Hold on, because I got to ask this question. No, it's all right. It's just, I got to guide things around, because we got an election in November. You've got a Raphael Warnock who could or could not go back to the U.S. Senate. You've got a Sherry Beasley in North Carolina who could go to the U.S. Senate. You have got a Mandela Barnes. You have got a Val Demings. You've got John Fetterman. I mean, you have got some people who need some votes right now. And I'm not saying that we can't walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. Let me go, but let me take this around very quickly with you, Dwight, because we're closing in, but I want everyone to stay right here. Arlene, you said third parties don't win, but that's not true. During the Depression, and that's why we have to really understand our history. During the Depression, America was a very vibrant place politically. We were having marches on Washington because people were angry about the money that had been denied them by the oligarchs. You had communists, you had socialists, you had some of everybody in the United States, and people were running on that. You had a socialist who went to Congress in the 1920s. He was also indicted under the Espionage Act, by the way. So let's be real clear. That's what makes America and the world a vibrant place, to have different people who have a lot of different thoughts. So don't say that third parties don't work. That's not true. We will not allow them to work, because the Democrats and the Republicans are under the same quilt. They don't let other parties in debates, and they knock them out. And people who are independent and have different views, they knock them out of that too. It's just that with Donald Trump, it didn't work. He just went and gangstered the party. That's what happened. That's why I mentioned Liz Cheney, because she's an establishment conservative Republican. He defeated her and her crowd.
Well, we need to be And then that's why we need to be educated, Santita, because the United States is the only major country in the world that is only operating with two parties. Every other major, there must be 15 parties in the Knesset. Every major country in the world operates with parties, and the parties leverage with each other. South Africa, they may have 20 different parties. And then the parties in each one of them get so many seats. And then they leverage back in for. That's how world politics work. We're the only country in the world that, for the most part, that operates with only two parties. And it's just like you said, it's because if another party rises up, there's a conspiracy to neutralize them.
Not a conspiracy,
That is what that's
a
about.
plan. It ain't no conspiracy. It's a plan. You get neutralized. You get knocked out. And it hurts people. And then it makes people angry because that's what you're seeing right now. Whole linear Bob, you're seeing a lot of people who are very angry, who feel that none of this stuff is working for them and that they have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, run amok, led astray. Linear Bob?
Yeah, and I would say we have many times been given the choice of which of the two evils do we want, the lesser evil or the greater evil. But we're still having to vote for an evil because of this. And I say it's this first past the post problem. That's part of the story here, is we can't have proportional representation. It's all or nothing. And that's, I think, what forces us into this two-party thing, and we're always voting for the lesser of two evils.
And you're tired of voting for evil. Is that what you're saying, Linear Bob?
Absolutely.
And on this level, everybody, this is not a white-black thing. And that's what I'm hoping we will get there. And I think the fear, Robert, is that that whites and blacks and brown and people and yellow, red, the rainbow will truly come together, that the right and the left will come together. And we're on the verge of that. I think we're closer to that than we have been. That I think the fear, Robert, is that in 1 minute, that the right and the left will come together and change. That'll be the game changer. That'll be another Tea Party, literally, like the one where Crispus Attucks was killed, not the one they just tried to have, Robert.
Well, that's part of the reason I think so many people in the political right try to demonize the conceptualization of Marxism, because they try to turn it into this innately angry and evil and crazy thing. When in reality, if you read the early writings of Marx and the writings of Engels, they talk about a proletariat rising up. What happens when the poor black, the poor white, the poor Latino all come together and decide, well, the people are not against me because of the color of their skin. It's actually these wealthy millionaires and billionaires who have been gaming the system for the last century. They're keeping us all in the same social economic position. And what happens when they unite electorally for the people's revolution? That is what they're afraid of. This is why they spend so much time demonizing it on both sides of the aisle, because they understand that there's only so long you can keep people down at the bottom and just play them off against each other year after year. And what's going to need to happen is a unity across the proletariat, because as I said previously, as long as you can pit black women against black men, then black folks don't go nowhere. As long as you can pit black folks against Latinos, then minorities don't go nowhere. As long as you can pit poor whites against minorities, well, then poor folks in general don't go nowhere. That is the unity the unity we have to create, and we actually want to make progress in this country.
CK, the last 2 minutes belong to you. First of all, are you going to be on Court TV this week? Hello.
Santita, I've done my Court TV fill already. I was on Court TV twice this week for a total of 5 hours, and so I have reached my limit on Court TV this week because I have to work. Also, I had a great time talking about a lot of great cases, and so I'm very excited about my court. And thank you for those of you. I see that there are comments that are coming in, people saying they enjoy hearing my candor and my legal analysis. So thank you all for that. But Santita, I say we need to keep on talking and fighting. I'm not sure where I fall on the separate parties, because I'm looking at being in Georgia. I'm looking at the next 3 months or less, actually 2 months. And midterms are coming up, and what we need to do. And again, Herschel Walker. You all just don't understand.
Yeah, I do.
This would be a travesty beyond travesty, and then some more travesty. And I don't want to take away from Herschel's success on some level, but not as a U.S. Senator from the state of Georgia. Again, for those who have serious concerns, and they should, we all should be feeling some kind of way. And we all do feel some kind of way, because I can tell you twice, not once, but twice, I have received in the mail a notice of address change. And I haven't changed my address since I last voted. And what that means is I who have fought voting suppression with litigation and in the process of being purged. Now I dare them, double dare them, triple dare them to do that. But what I'm saying is, when you get these notices by the Secretary of State, when you haven't moved, and I check my status regularly, that is a precursor to a challenge. Now, if they challenge me, it's going to be on. There's going to be massive litigation. But in the process, there are tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of Georgians who are also victims of voter suppression, who may not have the gravitas that I maybe could have in litigation. I want to vote, and I want to see the people who I want elected. So we've got to continue these discussions. I believe that we should not allow anyone to divide Black men and Black women. We need to deal with that in our community.
But CK,
no one is going to allow that to happen. For me,
CK, I'm up against the clock. Hold on, everybody, stay with me on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and Santita Jackson and Friends on Facebook. Like and share, because the question is: are we being divided from each other? Black women and Linear Bob, don't leave. Don't leave, because I like your observations too. Are Black men and Black women being divided one against the other? One against the other. We can continue that conversation tomorrow too, because I want to put this stuff out on the table. I want to put it out on the table, because that is the only way we're going to get well. We've got to put these issues out on the table and have honest, earnest discussions about them. And you know what? I want Linear Bob, I want Paula, I want Carol, I want everybody to participate in this conversation, because we have all had wedges driven in between all of us. And it's not helping any of us. The only people who are winning are the 1%, the oligarchs. They're the ones who are winning. The people who run the world. You remember we just buried Queen Elizabeth, who owned 1/6 of the world. How does that work? Come on, y'all. Let's think about that. So stay right there. We're going to continue this conversation, but I'm so glad that you've been with us today. Dwight McKee, Attorney Robert Patillo, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, Legal Q&A with C.K., did her fill on Court TV. Continue to let Court TV that you want to see more of her. Chaparral, I don't know if you're still there, but Savannah, we missed you today, girl. Back. I can't wait to be with you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show, but stay right here on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. God bless you. Love you, everybody. Okay, everybody. So what are Dwight, the solution right now, immediately is what? Immediately. Because we got an election in a month and then some.
There is no immediate solution, and we have to stop thinking immediate.
Okay.
The solution is now going to be long range. 5% of the population owns 90% of the wealth. And so that means that most people are Black, white, Latino, woman, men, most of us in the same bag. We're a tick away from poverty. And so the system is obviously only really working for that 5%, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, because that only becomes exacerbated over time. They create more and more and hold on to more and more of the wealth, and we become more and more impoverished. And so what a third party does is that it binds us based on our interests and our circumstances rather than our ethnicity. And it gives us a reason to coalesce and then fight the power.
Robert, CK, Chaparral, Linear Bob. Let's go with you, Robert.
Well, and I have to hop off after this, but I think it's crucial for us get these commitments before the election. We see this happen every year that we almost hope the people in power can do a Jedi mind trick and just read our minds, and then they'll just do that when they get into office. No, you have to get these commitments down on paper. You have to get them on the record as to what your agenda is prior to the election. What we've seen with the Biden administration was they made a lot of commitments going into 2020. And they've started the process of actually standing by those commitments, whether it's student loan reform, whether it's the environmental bill that they were passed, the infrastructure bills. Those are things they said they were going to do. Now, they lived up to all their promises? Absolutely not. I don't think any administration does. But we saw the same thing with Trump. He committed to wall funding. He moved heaven or earth to do the wall funding. He committed to a Muslim ban. He banned the Muslims. He committed to many things that were going to help his white supremacist base, and he did that. We always have the issue of not getting these folks on record. We, as if they go on record committing to things they're going to do for the black people, then somehow that's going to scare off their white votes, and then they can blame us when the election doesn't go their way. We have to stop voting out of fear. We have to start voting out of hope, and we have to start holding these folks responsible. If you want something from them, ask them directly. If they don't want to do it, then let them know that, well, if you can't commit to me, I can't commit to you. You treat it like any other transaction. We are not in a romantic relationship with any political party. We're in a business relationship with these political parties, and we have to start looking at it that way. That's how you stop this separation that they're trying to push between black men and black women. They are able to handle both of our agendas concurrently as long as we force them to do so.
CK, you want to say anything before? I know you're running today.
I am running. I have to tell you, I love how Robert expresses himself. Romantic relation. This is not a kumbaya fest. You're absolutely right, Robert. This is business. And we have to be about the business of our interests. So again, I am resentful and hostile when there are any forces that try to divide my community, that try to divide black men and black women. Very hostile. That makes me feel some kind of way. So I don't allow it to happen. We have to say this is not going to happen. I'm not allowing anyone to talk about the narrative or to exercise a narrative, if you will, that will divide black men and black women. That's not acceptable to me. So I think that we need to continue to talk, but we need to continue to act, Santita, and say, no, that's not going to work. We are not going to allow that. And we, in our homes, which is what's happening in Georgia, in our homes, black men and black women need to talk about this. Talk about this and make sure that we are united, that we don't allow forces to divide us. That's very important. If forces divide us, it's because we're allowing them to divide us because we're not on point and looking at it and addressing these issues. So I'm not waiting for somebody else to address what's going on in my community. I want to address it, be proactive, and I think that's what we need to do. Putting that issue aside, do I have to talk about Herschel Walker again? I'm feeling my blood pressure rise.
Don't let him send your blood pressure to the sky. Because you know what? Because let me tell you, because he too is part of the game. And this is why I'm saying, all this thing, that's why pardon me, girl, I have to mention Liz Cheney, because Robert Strauss was head of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party when we were children. Okay. People don't see parties as we do. And I'm saying that we shouldn't be wedded to anything but principle, not party. We have to be wedded to what's going to work for us. That's why I was asking you, Dwight. Reverend, you're right. Reverend ran for president 40 years ago. And he has been very, very active up until 2008, when black folks told him to sit down. We've got a black president now. Okay, that's fine. But you will always remember his legacy. And you'll remember it more and more the further and further away we get from it. So I'm over that. But that's why I was asking you, in this moment, we've got Reverend Sharpton. That's why I was asking you, and that's fair game to me. What is he doing? I'm seeing him on MSNBC, and he's presenting our case, bringing stories that no one is talking about, shining a light in dark places. That's why I'm like, okay, What does he say about where we are right now? Because this is a conversation that he is bumping into, and he's got the mic now.
Yeah, he's got the only one with the mic, and I agree, and that's why I said you start by raising the issue. I think we all have to really raise the issue of the of a third party, because I think again what the Democrats do, and they do it well, is that they dangle a personality in front of us, and then we become swept up in at least the symbolism of it, or the obligation of having to work to get this person in. You know, we have to work for Kamala. We have to work for the black Supreme Court justice. And so we confuse the personality statute with the policy statute. And so, yeah, we got a vice president. And that's a wonderful thing, symbolically. But how does it transpose into the passing of a George Floyd bill? They're two different things. And I think what happened to black leadership, including Reverend Charlton, is they feel compelled to have to fight in behalf of the personality. Like that, like with Stacey. And they feel like it's part of leadership is they have a commitment to the black community to help, establish the personalities, because symbolically it is a big step. But the fact of the matter is we're going to have to move past that and get to what works best for the disenfranchised and the proletariat, and how we can coalesce in terms of our interest and become a party around those interests, and then that party leverages power. Because the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, in my opinion, is always going to have a self-interest in the status quo. Because that's what this country is a status quo. It is those people either, in one form or another, who benefits from an existing system. They somewhere fall within that 5% that owns 90% of the wealth, whether it's direct or indirect. And so I say we at least start by having the discussions, and we probably need to have a convention. The closest we came to it, as I remember, was the Gary Convention.
In 72?
In the last 50 years, when we set out in Gary.
Because in fact, they had the Gary Convention the day after, the morning after we had Family Affair, which was one of our first big events. You remember that, Dwight, of course. You were on the board of Operation Push. And we were at McCormick Place, what was like 10,000 people. And then the next day, everybody went to Gary for the Black Political Convention where Mayor Richard Hatcher was the mayor. I mean, you all had everybody there. I think Mrs. King was there. Harry Belafonte was there. Mrs. Shabazz was there. Reverend was there. I mean, you had the political spectrum of Black America there looking for some answers. What was that like, Dwight?
And Black progressive politics came out of that, and we were able, with that momentum, to then elect a whole host of Black mayors in major cities throughout the country.
And then, of course, that summer, Daley was unseated by Reverend Jackson and Alderman Bill Singer. So was that part of that progressive movement?
The whole momentum, we will no longer be a slave to the system, came out of that. Okay. I mean, because actually, you have to take it all the way back to Fannie Lou, who said that they was going to get off their plantation down in Mississippi.
Okay.
And so it was just a whole spirit of we're not going to be on the plantation anymore. That was able to generate for us our own power base. And so then that's why I said that the Democrats, as they figured that out, they said, well, we will try to draw more of you all into our system and use that to dangle them to make it look like progress. But the fact of the matter is, these are just a job promotions. This is not real policy change. These are job promotions. So we will bring in the Ron Brown. We will co-opt Jesse Jackson's staff and give them positions.
And the only one they couldn't get was Frank Watkins. Frank Watkins refused. You know, I want to make the clue because we're about to bury Frank, and I wanted to make that clear. And in fact, we're going to have a memorial service for Reverend Frank Watkins, October 22nd here in Chicago. So all of you who are in Chicago, please come to Rainbow Push so that we can celebrate his life. But he was the only top tier staff member who refused to leave Reverend because he so objected to the policies of the DLC. That was one of the last conversations I had with Frank. And in time I'll tell you what he said. I'm writing it all down myself. But that's what I mean. We're willing to be co-opted, Dwight. You know?
Yeah, because we saw co-option as a promotion. And so a Ron Brown, who was running your father's campaign.
No, he ran the convention, the convention campaign. He wouldn't run the campaign.
But he also became the Secretary of Congress.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was co-opted that way.
Well, to be fair, he was always there. He was a partner at Patton Boggs and Blow. That was Tommy Boggs, Lindsay Boggs, the great congressman, his son. He had probably the most prestigious lobbying firm in Washington, D.C. And Ron Brown was a partner at that firm. And so Ron was always establishment. But the thing is, establishment Black people could not break on through until Jesse Jackson. They couldn't break through. And that's why I'm saying, the streets always free up people into the suites. But something happens when we get into these suites, nothing changes. Nothing changes. And that has got to stop. We're the ones who are suffering out here. It's Chaparral, are you back up? Let me see, because he had put her on hold. And you were put on hold, Chaparral, because we were hearing a lot of the background noise. We know you're getting your children to school right now. But let me see where Henry is, so he can bring you back on just very quickly before we go. I know, excuse me, but keep talking, Dwight. I'm sorry. I always just give you these points of clarification because I want to keep us clear because you are so into history and you are living history. That's what I was asking you about. Hold on. Hello, hi. Could you bring Chaparral back on? Hello, could you bring Chaparral back on? Thank you, hon. Appreciate that. All right, hon. Thank you. All right, I'll hang up. So we can begin to close this out. But maybe tomorrow, we can talk about if Black women and Black men are being put against each other. Oh boy, it's a lot. Dwight, keep talking, hon. I'm sorry. Trying to do a couple of things as you can hear at once. Hosting ain't easy, particularly when you're doing it from home. Oh no, you can't be through.
Yeah, I'm through.
So what do you suggest people do in Georgia with this upcoming election? Dwight?
Yeah, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
What I suggest that they do, they do what they've been doing. They vote, hope that Stacey will win, hope things get better, but don't see it as a panacea. Mm-hmm. Don't see that as a solution. Is that the solution is more long range. And don't be satisfied with that. Because Stacey will win. And she'd, do one or two things with it be same old, because she's in an establishment. And by definition, an establishment has already been established. It means things are already locked in.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going to be in an establishment, things locked in, and she would only have so much latitude to do anything. And so the fact of the matter is that, let's get her in if we can, so that we can at least hold what we got. But the long-range goal is to understand that ultimately we need our own party and coalesce with those people who have the same interests as us, who are as broke as us, who are as progressive as us, who are as caring and empathetic as we are, and to come together with them and to learn to leverage our power with whatever parties agree or disagree with us.
No, I agree. Well, that's always been our point. But then we got in and found out, some people got up in there and they didn't want to move. What did you say? Clinton took our staff. And Jack Odell predicted that would happen, that they got co-opted and please, and when Reverend goes to the convention, they won't even give him a seat. So there's that. Chappelle, you there?
I am, Santita.
Okay, what's on your mind, hon?
I think the whole final point is that, the Democratic leadership needs to come out and support our progressive candidates. Until we see their support for people that we believe in, I think it's going to be hard to garnish the support that they're going to need to win the election. I think Biden needs to definitely sign some executive orders before the midterm elections, so that way folks can see that he is supporting them and supporting issues that are important to him. I think if he decides not to do that, I think that it's definitely going to be a low turnout in the Black community.
Do you think that's going to happen even in Georgia? Do you think that's going to even happen in Georgia?
I do. Mm-hmm. Because, you're getting bombarded 24/7 by Herschel Walker campaigns. When I was there a couple of weeks ago, every time I heard on TV, it was a Walker campaign or a Kemp campaign commercial on TV. And the thing is that not only aren't Democrats on the ground pushing like the lead Democrats, but Nancy Pelosi, the president, Kamala Harris, Black leadership that are out there on the ground in Georgia, they're not visible and they're not resonating with the people. So if, people like to feel that they're important too. So you have to make the people that you want to vote for you feel like their issues are important. And you have to deliver. You got to get some tangible deliverables. They're disenchanted. I don't know how else to keep screaming it, but Black people are very disenchanted with the Democratic Party because they have failed us on so many levels, so many times, and we're tired of filing for the okie doke. I mean, how many times are you going to be able to gaslight me on the same issues to get me to go out and vote and then to turn around and turn your back on me again? I just think that at some point, Black people are going to just shut down. And that's what
I think you're beginning to see it.
Especially with the...
I think you're beginning to see that.
That's what I said. You're starting to see that, especially with the young folks from 18 to 35. They really have
that's why I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer. I'm just saying you all are beginning to see it. People don't always tell you what they're doing. Sometimes they show you better than they can tell you, right? And I think that is what we're seeing. I think they are showing. They're showing, because I'm surprised that Raphael Warnock only has 85% of Black support. And one of the things I learned from Reverend is that if you want to win as a Black person in these general campaigns, you need a real excited Black electorate. And you need 90+%.
And I think they said that he's down 7 points now.
Man. Yeah.
I mean, 2 weeks ago he was down 2 points. Now
And then he
down
was up
7.
2 points.
So what has happened?
Mm.
Yeah, and what has happened in these last couple of weeks? I mean, at some point you have to fight back. And I know we talk about all the time getting in the trenches, but you got to get in the trenches and you got to go out here to the people, because you have to. I mean, he's a pastor. He knows how to talk. He knows how to get to the congregation, but somebody he's listening to the wrong people right now. He needs to go back to the basics if he wants to win, because I think that he can definitely bring more for the black community than Herschel Walker.
Oh my gosh! Well, first of all, we sent him, so of course he's going to do that.
Yeah.
It's like.
But like I said, where is the leadership? Where's the Democratic Party? I haven't heard anything from the squad. I ain't see AOC. I ain't see none of these people out here. The squad.
Well, now they don't want them. They have been putting money. The Democratic, the black blue dogs, have been putting their money into running candidates. Wait a minute, Chappelle, against them. They've been trying to push out Rashida Tlaib. Wait a minute, with a black woman. I'm like, wait. And I have some friends who were supporting the black candidate because we got to get a black person in there. I said, for what? I said, Rashida is progressive.
Mm-hmm.
She isn't. She's aligned with our interests and our politics. You just want to get a black face in a high place? I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I said, I'm glad I'm not there because I would not be doing that with y'all at all. They have been running candidates against the progressives, and they have been black. Chappelle. That's what you have Bakari Sellers out. And I love Bakari, but I don't like what he's doing. I don't like how he's being used, or how he is using his influence, but how he's being used too. I don't like it. But that is what is happening.
That they still have a popularity. What I'm saying is the progressive, like the AOC, the Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, they have a popularity within our community. So if they come out and stomp for these progressives, then they can actually push them over the top. But I understand that, they have to be called. I don't know if Warnock is calling them to come out and they're refusing. But all I know is that the Democratic leadership is not visible. They don't have a message. I don't know what the hell Jamie Harrison is doing, but it seems like that they are destined to fail, and they're okay with failing.
Santita, I think that what's going on is the Democratic leadership would rather lose to a Republican than lose to a progressive.
Explain that, Linear Bob.
I think they don't want to see progressives, and I think they're willing to go more towards the Republican Party and go corporatist. Mm-hmm. I believe that Robert talked about that they're both under the same quilt.
Linear Bob, I agree with you because I said they're under the same quilt. They are.
Yeah. Okay. My memory is not that good.
No, your memory is great. Linear Bob, don't even try that. Don't even try it.
No. What I'm saying is I think there is a corporate group within the Democratic Party that would rather lose to a Republican than lose to a progressive. They will fight against the progressives. I saw it with I'm blanking on Nina Turner.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I saw that happen in Cleveland. I mean, there's a group of reporters that I support called Status Quo. They were reporting from Cleveland.
Status Quo.
There it was. Status Quo. That's the name of the group. Jordan Chariton is the reporter, and he was there reporting on the internet, and he was, and it was very evident that the corporatist Democrats were throwing money at Republicans, even or accepting Republican money for the whole purpose of defeating Nina. Why? Because Nina was threatening to overturn the vote. They don't want it. They don't want anybody shaking things up. They want it. They want more of the same. And I've seen it so many times. It turns my stomach. I'm almost 80. I got to tell you, I was a labor organizer. I was involved in a lot of things, and I worked with a lot of working class people. And I hear them say, "Who's for us?" Well, they make a lot of promises, but they don't deliver. That's the trouble with the corporatist Democratic Party. The Republicans, I can tell you that in 2016, when Hillary was running, I was hearing a lot of people say, I'm not voting for her. And the reason is Trans-Pacific Partnership, because that's NAFTA on steroids. More of our jobs get sent offshore. Our manufacturing jobs, our good middle, working class, but good paying jobs are going to be gone, and we're going to be saying, do you want fries with that? That's not what we want. We want decent jobs. We've got decent skills, but the corporate people send the jobs offshore because we're too expensive. They don't want to pay us a living wage.
And you can trace that to the fact that a lot of their money that came out of Arkansas came out of the Walmart crowd, who that policy worked for because they wanted low labor costs so that they could make all that buku money. The Clinton wall was sponsored by Walmart. And so then that's my whole argument, is that we think people that, because they dangle these personalities in front of us, that it's going to be a change in policy, but that's just a strategy to keep us from bucking. But the fact of the matter is, their interest lines up the same way the Republicans' interest do, is with the corporatists and with big money politics. And so that strategy came very specifically from the Walmart crowd, those trade agreements, so that they could leverage their labor costs.
Absolutely, and I see it out here. I'm in what's called Silicon Valley, and Santita knows I spell it with silly con because there's been a lot of silly cons out here. But I saw lots of manufacturing jobs here that went offshore. There are a lot of people here who can't afford the rent anymore. They're moving into the Central Valley of California because that's where the rents are a little bit lower. And there's still some manual labor jobs they can do, but there's a whole lot of people that literally have no place to go. And I wish you could see here in California how many tents there are near the freeway off-ramps.
I've seen them.
That's state property, and you see literally a dozen tents, and people are living there. And we've got a bunch of people in the landing area underneath one of the runways of our airport, and the city has literally moved 500 or 600 people out from under that runway because the FAA is all over them about that. Well, where do those people live? If the police and they come in with bulldozers and literally take what few possessions those people have and shove them off because the FAA says, well, you're not going to get millions of dollars for the airport if you don't. And so here's the people getting shoved out, and there's no place for them to go. I see that all over here. I see people at every left turn signal, there's somebody holding a piece of cardboard and saying, homeless, you have 2 kids, can you help? I see that every intersection damn near, where there's a major intersection with a left turn lane and a separate line and a little piece of concrete there. People are walking up and down that concrete holding those cardboard signs. And that's all over in Silicon Valley. This is supposed to be a high tech place. Well, with so many people living under freeway off ramps and in corners of stuff that's technically state land, so they're trying to be out of the way. They're trying not to be, obtrusive. They're just trying to survive, and I see that a lot here. So I see this wedge being driven between black people and brown people and white people, and I'm really fighting that. I really think we have much more in common than we have different.
Absolutely.
What we have in common is we're one paycheck away from living on the street ourselves.
Absolutely.
And many people are like that. And we get these promises, and I say the promises came from the corporatist Democrats over and over again about things are going to happen. I saw the $2,000 stimulus check suddenly shrink to $1,400. The promise was $2,000, and suddenly it's $1,400. Why? Because during the last last week. So the Trump administration, they sent a $600 check. So, okay, we'll add the $1,400 to it to make it $2,000. But the original promise was a $2,000 check. And so $600 poof, just like that, right after the election. And then we see the promise of the $15 minimum wage. What happened to that? Has that happened yet? Yeah, and there's a whole lot of promises like that we, as working people, as people who are on the edge, believed and hoped and prayed that the corporatists would deliver on this. I mean, I worked for Bernie Sanders. I worked my rear end off. I walked around. I did a lot of telephoning. I know a lot of other people who did too. And I saw what happened. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes these phone calls in the middle of the night in the southeast of the United States, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, here comes Uncle Joe, and all of a sudden he's got the nomination, and I can tell you, as a progressive, I know where that came from. That was the corporatist wing, the DLC,
Absolutely.
or New Way, or New Dem, or whatever you want to call them, because they keep changing their names.
Mm-hmm.
That was them flexing their muscle and political muscle and money.
They pushed him out. They did the same thing to Reverend. Suddenly,
Yes,
Reverend wins in
absolutely.
Michigan, and then the machines in Wisconsin don't work.
Absolutely, the same thing. And I'm saying, we're all in this together. I've been a labor organizer forever and ever, and I can tell you, we're all in this together.
We are.
Whether we're officially in an organization or we're unofficially, we still have the same interests.
Mm-hmm.
And I really resent people drawing wedges and saying, "Oh, you're not one of us."
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm an old white man, and I'll admit it. My grandfather came here in 1880. On both sides of my mother's family and father's family. In fact, my grandparents in general all were from the Eastern Europe and Central Europe. So I don't go back to the 1600s or 1500s. But I will tell you that there was a whole lot of common interests we have as working people.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you, we have wage theft when you put in a time card and somehow it gets changed and you don't get a full paycheck. That's happened, and I've seen it happen. And I know that this is happening in this city. There are people who work as subcontractors for companies that clean the office spaces. There was the union I belonged to for a long time, SEIU,
Mm-hmm.
had a campaign called Justice for Janitors, and it began here. And it had to do with big companies. I won't name names, but big 2 and 3 letter name companies, 4 letter name companies were subcontracting, and the janitors were basically being cheated of their wages. Many of the janitors are women, and they were being raped even on the job. And because there were so few people in the building, it was possible for a supervisor to get away with that. And Justice for Janitors was one of the things we did as a union to try change that picture. And I see it still with, I'm trying to stop with the wedges and say, are we not all in the same boat together here? I think we are. And that's what I'm fighting for, is let's get the progressive change that we keep getting promised. But this is Lucy in the football. We get the progressive promise, and then once the votes have been cast, all of a sudden the progressive ideas all go out the window, and now it's the corporatist people that name what happens. And I'm absolutely with I'm blanking on names. I think Robert, who said we need executive orders right now about voting rights. We need it about a whole lot of things, because as I say, I refer to him as Uncle Joe. I remember what he did to Anita Hill, and I know there were 2 other women who wanted to talk, and he didn't even let them into that hearing.
You're right.
And
you would remember what he did with busing too.
I have never forgiven him for that.
And you would remember what he did with busing, that he did not support busing. And that pushed Ed Brooke, the only sitting black senator at the time, that pushed him. He lost his seat over busing.
I believe it.
Oh, he did. He even came to Chicago. He was brought to push by our Republican Senator, Chuck Percy, who was a dear friend. You could walk with him. You couldn't walk with the Democrats in Chicago. And he brought him because he was trying to save busing. He said, we must fulfill the promise of Brown. You remember that, Dwight? Brown v. Board of Education. I mean, I barely knew what he was talking about. Well, I knew because my family talked about it. But that was his stance. And he went on a personal tour all around the country trying to garner support. And initially, when Joe Biden was running for the U.S. Senate, he had Joe Biden support. He got to the Senate and he joined with the other people who had slave-holding states like Delaware was, and knifed him in the back. You know, I just look, y'all. It's not personal. This is history, okay? This is politics. And you know what? If you're progressive and you know it, clap your hands, and you need to stand up and stand on your beliefs. We don't have what we deserve because we don't feel that we deserve it. And we don't stand up for it. And we don't demand that other people do too. Linear Bob, this is awful.
I agree with you totally. And that's in fact why when I discovered your program and I discovered I could be a fly on the wall through YouTube, that's me. You've seen me on the chat thing because I want to know what's going on, and I'm hearing more honesty in your radio program than I'm hearing in lots of places.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm with you 100% on this one.
Oh, you know, because I know we are the ones. We have been told not to be with each other. I mean, look, I've been in a car traveling throughout the South in particular so many times when my father will see someone holding up a Confederate flag. And this happened not too long ago, maybe just before the pandemic. And he had the driver stop the car, and the driver was like, oh, we're in a van. He said, big old SUV. He said, no, let me go. And of course, this man almost swallowed his tongue when Reverend got out the car. He said, how you doing? Hey, look, my brother, I want to talk to you. Come on. I mean, and they were both Southerners, so they just engaged in that Southern talk, and this guy he began to relax. He said, the tragedy is that he's going to vote against his own interests. I mean, that's what happened with the Reagan Democrats. That's what happened with Reagan supporters, all of that. Everything he got these folks support Linear Bob and Dwight and Chaparral, and then walked into office and fired them.
Yeah, and I can tell you, I worked at that point in time, I worked at Santa Clara County Communications, where the police and fire dispatchers are for basically the South Bay, and I met two of those air traffic controllers who became police and fire dispatchers, and they were. I can tell you, they both said the same thing. This is a much easier job than air traffic control. We're probably going to live longer because air traffic controllers were I guess you could say almost infamous. They didn't retire. They died on the job from heart attacks.
Well, I mean, so much stress.
And ulcers.
Yeah, so much stress.
But anyway, I met two of those people, and they were felt they'd been lied to, that they were told we're gonna support you, and then all of a sudden this flip, no, we're gonna get rid of all of you. And actually, if you look at this thing of productivity and wages, there's a point, and it's approximately where Reagan fired the air traffic controllers, where you start seeing the productivity continue to rise and the working class wages level. And more and more of the wealth is going to that top 1%, or even 0.1%.
Oh yeah. And it's worsening.
Yes, absolutely.
We've seen it.
That's one of the reasons I'm a union organizer and a shop steward and a chief steward, and elected that and elected to be a negotiating team member. Exactly, because there's something wrong in this picture when the wages aren't rising with the productivity. The productivity did rise, but the wages didn't. And I think, in many ways, the people you represent, with big quotes on it, are the working class people who have been screwed over time and again. And there's always that poor black man in the South alongside that poor white man in the South. And guess what that poor white man's going to do? I'm still better than that black man is.
Oh, well, but that's, sadly, that's his tragedy, because he has been, that is the social construct that keeps him poor, and he doesn't even know it.
Yes, absolutely it is. Absolutely it is.
Bless his heart, and you believe in God, and you believe God made someone superior to somebody else. That is just nuts.
But that's why I was knocking on doors for Bernie. That's why I was organizing where I work, was because we're all in this together.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter what color we are. We have the same needs. We have the same problems with the working conditions. We have the same problems with the money running out before the month does.
Absolutely. What did they say? Payday to Monday?
Yeah.
But it is, of course, I was raised with that, and that's the beauty, I would say, the beauty of, of the ministry that I saw, with my father and Reverend Frank Watkins and other ministers who wanted to minister in a new way, or in a way that they felt that Jesus would minister, which was, really taking on the establishment, because Jesus was killed by the state, Linear Bob. Jesus wasn't killed, because people just thought he was.
But I also remember that thing about when it says, I'm blanking on the point. I believe it's in Matthew, and I'm not a biblical scholar, so I can't tell you exactly. But it's where it says, "What you did for the least of these, you did for me."
You've also done unto me, absolutely. Yes. That which you've done for the least of these, and but if these are some, and my thing is, you don't have to be Christian to find the truth in that. You don't.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be a believer to find the truth in that. Just know that what someone does to or for someone else, they will do to or for you. How about that? Just move it around a little bit. Linear Bob, you're gonna be you're gonna be a regular part of my people's panel.
I can be, if you want. I'm more than willing. And say I'm retired with involuntarily. The TV station I work for sold their frequency back to the FCC, so I don't have a job tending transmitters anymore. I'm still a broadcaster at heart. I started, and I'll do anything.
No, but I think people need to hear your voice.
I'll tell you, I started as a disc jockey. I played records for 2 years.
Oh, get out of here!
At an AM radio station in the South Bay.
And that's why you need to be part of this show, because I wanted to start a people's panel. I tried that when I first started the show, and then I was just trying to get the show.
I'm up for that.
Okay.
I'm absolutely up for that.
Yeah.
I mean, my alarm clock going off at 3:45 this morning was to make absolutely sure I was awake and ready to go for this, because actually your program is how I start my day.
Oh, bless your heart.
And I will also tell you something else. This is an observation that as an older person, I've come to discover that many older people don't sleep through the whole night.
Mm-hmm.
We wake up in the middle of the night and then go back to sleep again later on. So we sleep in 2 shifts.
My parents do that.
Yeah. And I have a theory for this. If you have a minute. The night is 12 hours long, roughly, but we need 8 hours of sleep. So if you divide the night into 3 4-hour chunks, the first, think of it as we're out in the middle of a forest somewhere, and we're a group of maybe 50, 70 people, and we're hunter-gatherers. Somebody has to keep the fire going. Well, who's going to do that in the middle of the night? I can tell you the night owls take the first shift. They stay up till about 1 or 2 in the morning. They're talking and tending the fire. And I'll tell you about the last shift. Those are the larks who get up at, and I had one for a roommate for a while in college. 6 o'clock without an alarm clock every day. I couldn't do that, but because I was a night owl, he was a lark. But if you take the larks at the third shift and the night owls at the first shift, who gets the middle? It's the elders. And I think around age 35 or 40, something kicks in genetically, and we start waking up in the middle of the night, because that was the middle shift, tending the fire to keep it going, and also let the animals that would want to eat a fresh human know that the humans are up and awake and talking. And we don't have good night vision. Dogs and cats see much better at night than we do, and they hear much better than we do. But I can also tell you that if they hear people talking and there's a little bit of activity, they tend to be a little more hesitant to come running in to eat somebody. So the elders in the middle of the night serve two purposes. One purpose was the real old people were passing on an oral history to the younger old people. And also there was fiction going on, the 1001 Arabian Nights, that kind of thing, Beowulf. There's a whole lot of medieval stories that take hours to tell. Well, those happened in that window from the middle 4 hours of the night. And there were some handcraft things, the equivalent of knitting or crocheting, happened at that time because it didn't require much light. You didn't want to burn up all the wood, after all. But you stayed alive. We're, alert and letting the things with ears know that you're not going to catch the humans all asleep. And I think that's the function of the elders, and that's where I am. At 80 years old, I wake up at 3 in the morning or 2 in the morning out here, and I go back to sleep around 6:37 and wake up again around 9:30, 10.
Well, I'm glad that you stay with us. It means so much when I see my linear Bob from Silicon Valley.
I was hoping you would enjoy the pun also.
Oh, I loved it. I've given that to Rokana, and we have laughed a while about it. I said, Ro, I have a listener.
I've been to a couple of his town halls. I know him.
Look, I gave him your name.
Yeah.
I said, Ro, I got someone for you from Silicon. He said, what? I said, Silicon Valley, Silicon Valley. Oh, bless your heart. But I just want to thank you.
Thank you. And yes, you've got my landline number. This is my landline number, and this will always work. I don't trust my internet, which is intermittent at times, but I trust my landline. So in the future, if you want, you can send me emails or text messages. You've got my cell number for text messages and stuff. And Chaparral knows my number too, by the way. She texts me. So, we've become, I guess I'd say, distant friends.
Well, she adores you. She said the first time she spoke with you, she said, "Did you know who I spoke to?" I said, "Who?" She said, "Linear Bob." I said, "You got to be kidding." And this is just wonderful.
She at one point she said something, because a good friend of my wife's and mine, her son was killed. Shot by a gang initiation about a half a block from where we used to live. Now we had an apartment in San Jose, closer to San Jose State, and this was literally in the alleyway outside of our apartment. It was where Sandy's son was literally murdered, and Chaparral talked about that in a way that even Sandy can't. And so I called her and I thanked her for what she said about being the mother of a kid who had been shot, killed. And I just said, you're able to talk about it. My friend Sandy can't talk about it. It's too painful. But somebody, you said what Sandy has said to me personally. You said it publicly. And I said, thank you for that. And I guess, Chaparral heard that, because I said, you're speaking for other people who are still too hurt to be able to do it.
Absolutely.
And Sandy also is not, I'll put it this way. I don't know if she's net savvy enough to know about how YouTube works and to turn on her laptop at 3:45 in the morning. But I do. another part of my life. I intimidate broadcast television transmitters. And when do you think you can turn off a television station? How about 3 a.m. on Sunday?
I'm going to have to call you in here, Bob, because I have some questions for you.
You can do the equivalent of changing the oil at 3:45, and nobody notices.
Well, I have questions for you. So, as an engineer, so I'm going to be calling you. You just wait.
Okay. By the way, you know a good friend of mine. His name is Jim.
Jim Addy.
I met him. Yes, I met him 30 years ago at an antique show. His wife was running an antique business, and he came along, and they were in San Mateo at the San Mateo County Fairgrounds. My wife and I went there because my wife was more into antiques and stuff, and he saw me. I was wearing 2 pagers. One for the radio station that I was, the radio TV station I was working for, and that was my weekend and on-call jobs. My other job was working at Stanford as linear accelerator. I won't go into the details of how I ended up there, but it's world-class high-energy physics. I went from single-digit channel network television to world-class high-energy physics. So I'm wearing 2 pagers, one for Slack, one for the TV station. And he says, 2 pagers. He says, you're not a doctor. Doctors only carry 1 pager. What the heck are you? And I said, well, and I told him, transmitter engineer for a TV station that speaks 14 languages, and I'm also manage the cable TV and closed circuit high speed data system at the linear accelerator. And that's when he said, "Oh, and I worked at WFMT." And I said, "I know those call letters. I used to live in Chicago. I used to listen to Stud's Circle at 10 in the morning."
Oh my goodness!
Oh my goodness! Yes. So I go back in radio way back to the dawn of time, when there were only 2 FM stations: WEFM, which was a Zenith thing, and WFMT.
Oh
and
my goodness!
My father built a homemade thing from a magazine article and added it to it. We had an RCA console radio with a phono connector on the back, and he connected this FM tuner that he made there, and we listened to WFMT.
Oh boy!
Oh, yeah.
Well, I love it.
Jim was an engineer involved with WFMT, and we clicked like that. As I say, we're unicorns. There are not many people who stare down a 50,000 watt transmitter and keep it running. And Jim does. He does it in radio.
Mm-hmm.
I have more respect for the AM radio guys, because to me, that comes close to voodoo and black magic. Television and FM radio, much simpler.
Well, you know what? I'm grateful to have him, because he is brilliant and so diligent. Really, really
he is.
lovely guy.
He is.
Lovely guy.
And I let him know when he got things working again, because we've been trading emails. I said, Santita's raving, things are working. I let him know that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. No, you're welcome. No, so the world is small. You don't know how small. But I keep discovering, the older I get, the smaller this world is getting.
Absolutely. Well, we're all connected to each other. That is for sure.
Oh, absolutely we are. And see, that's the thing. So many people can't see it. They can't see the forest because there's so many trees in the way.
Well, they don't want to. And but you do.
I think that's true.
You do.
I think that's true.
Absolutely. You do. And I want to thank you with all of my heart for your support and for now being part of the panel.
Okay, and I'll do whatever I can. I mean, I'm almost 80, but when I get up, I don't hurt.
Look, I'm not paying any attention. My mother's almost 80. My father is 80. Just keep on going.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I have friends. I do their grocery shopping for them because I can.
That's right. So you just keep on doing your thing.
Yes, absolutely. And I really appreciate this conversation. Has been fabulous, and I'm grateful for you to do it, because I know you're putting a lot of energy into making it happen. This radio does not just happen. Television does not just happen. I tell people that I'm part of the orchestra. That when you turn on, I had this thing with my father-in-law at one point. Why do you have to work all the holidays? Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. You're always gone in the morning, and then you come by in the afternoon. And I said, okay, what are you doing right now? This was Thanksgiving Day. It was about 3 in the afternoon. Well, he had his big screen TV on, and he's watching a football game. And I said, you know how that football game got to be there? There's a whole bunch of people. Some of them operating cameras, some of them in a remote truck behind the wall of the stadium where all those cameras are connected. There's a whole bunch of people along the way, including at the TV station you got your TV set tuned into. And I was there in the morning when they were doing all the shakedown stuff, making sure everything was working. I'm part of the A team. That's why I have to work the holidays.
That's right.
You know, and I said, people make it happen. This is not a giant jukebox so I said, there are radio stations that are equivalent to a jukebox, and no one's there. But television, when you're watching a real thing, football game, there's a lot of real people making that happen. And I was one of them. I'm just not on the field. I'm back at the studio. But in this case, I was at the transmitter in case it hiccuped. They didn't want to be off the air for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. They wanted to be off the air for 2 seconds. If it winks at all, somebody's right there to figure out what's wrong and get it working again.
That's right. And you
That's
better.
where I was.
And you better. That's why I'm going to reach out to you about it. I have a couple of questions that I'd love for you to answer. But look, I'm going to have to run. Get you some rest.
Well, you got my numbers.
Oh,
you got
yeah.
My numbers.
No, I got you.
And I'm also, hey, I learned at the elbows of masters, and they put up with my asking questions. Now I'm in the position of being the master, and it's my turn to answer the questions as best I can. You know, to pass on the knowledge of stuff.
Well, you know, but thank you for your contributions. I mean, and thank you, Laura. You said it's an awesome show, and everybody is loving your commentary, Linear Bob, and we got him. Hey, Savannah, where were you today? We missed you, girl. Missed you. I love you, Linear Bob. Have a wonderful day. Get you a little bit of rest because you've been up for a while.
I was going to say Savannah had a lot to do with getting this to happen.
That's right.
I heard it yesterday.
That's right. Well, we got to get her on. So I'm giving all of you all my love. I'm going to run. Well, okay, Savannah, send your number again to Chaparral. Do it one more time because they said the phone kept ringing. Because I wanted you on there, and so let's do that. Okay, but I want you to be a part of the show, Linear Bob, because I think that you offer a perspective that is very, very necessary. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Sending you much love. Mwah. God bless you. Now go on. Get you some rest.
If you could see me right now, I can tell you I feel both of them, like a big hug and blushing.
Oh, bless your heart, bro. I'm giving you the biggest hug.
I'm usually off in the corner. See, I'm the kid who was in the back of the room running the projector. I'm not the star in front of the class. I'm in the back operating the projector.
Well, that's all right. That's general. The brilliant engineers. That's what you all do. You're like, I gotta get away from me. Let me do my work.
You're right.
You're different.
You dangle a malfunctioning piece of equipment in front of us and see how long we can resist trying to fix it.
Trust me. I know, but I'm going to run. I'm going to let you go. I think Dwight might be gone now. Dwight, are you gone? Probably. Okay. Well, Chaparral, are you gone? Probably. Okay. Well, I'm going to let everybody go. And Linear Bob, sending you much love, my sweetie. You'll be hearing from me really soon.
Okay. Thank you.
God bless you. God bless you, everybody. Thank you so much for being with me today. Send that number. Well, you could have talked to her. You could have talked to her today, Savannah, but we couldn't find you. So DM that number to Chaparral right now, please. Love you. Love you all. God bless you.